Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It's great to see you. Happy live hooking day. I have to say, I am suddenly, well, in the last few hours, slammed with feeling super sick. So I'm trying to push through, but I probably am not going to make it the whole time today. I feel super, super, super nauseous. Sorry about that. Spoiler alert. Let's see how it goes. I have water. I ate something. I might be better. We'll see how it goes. I am really flagging, but I feel like at least starting the sheep. So let's do it. I'm going to get right down to business. Joy, good to see you. Kirsten, good to see you. Sharon, all my buddies log on, right? We had fun earlier today, and I was so looking forward to today because it's a relaxing time. It might be fine. I'm gonna hope for the best. I'm not gonna be negative. Courtney, the sisters are on. Good to see you. Linda H, good to see you. Sandra, good to see you. I think I just wrote back to you on the computer. Good evening in Georgia. Doreen, great to see you from New York. Gayla, good to see you. All right, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I usually rally, don't I? I usually do pretty well. Now, I have to say, I'm working on this black sheep, right? So I have my black sheep here. My guy's on monk's cloth. Some of you got it on linen and different backings. Colleen, great to see you. Listening while you're doing dinner. That sounds great. Um, Colleen is Beech Nut Studios, right? We looked at two pieces of Beverly's that were yours, Colleen's, on coffee time today. They both had like beehives. They were so pretty, beautiful patterns. So I'm gonna start working. I'm gonna get as far as I get before I lose it. I'm gonna start working on black sheep. And I've got slightly different supplies than some of you because I used all my kits up when I put my kit together last and I didn't have the energy to be dyeing and stuff for my own kit. So I'm using like colors. You all, Melissa, good to see you. Goretti, good to see you. Country Gal, hello in Wisconsin. You all got like the best version of the kit. I'm using kind of scraps of materials that are inferior, but it's more or less the same color theme. Your color theme will pop more because you've got some really pretty hand-dyed materials. So I'm going to do it in a quite similar way. Um, I'm going away on Thursday, so I was cranking on orders all day today. So I have my stuff here, and I also have my Bliss cutter. So I'm cutting to fives because I think I cut everything to a five because it is quite a small scale kit. Now, if you got black sheep with me, oh, it's warm in here. I might have to open the window. I'm in Jocelyn's room. That's where I'm hiding out right now. If you got black sheep, what am I trying to say? If you're just logging on, I am not feeling well at all. I took a massive downhill turn, so I'm trying to engage my brain as best I can. Um, lost it. Oh, if you got it as the small kit, you got or the large kit, you have enough materials to be able to swap out your color plan. So the color plan that I suggested, right, or I have in mind, um, that I'll show you here is not necessarily what you have to do. You could reverse a lot of the colors. So we'll talk about that as we go along. And let's see, I'm feeling better already. Let's see. I'm going to bring you down here right away, and I'm going to get going right away because I don't know how long I've got before I get that horrible nauseous feeling again. And that was awful. Let's see. I missed lunch. I'm hoping that's all it was. I've been back and forth to the doctor a lot lately, so I'm hoping it's a big nothing. All right, this looks good, right? This is a card table I have set up. Let me bring this in a little bit here because I'm gonna be right here for a while, for quite a while. Now I've got my sheep here. You know what? I think I'm gonna put it in reverse so you see it right side up. Let's do that. Now I'm gonna stretch him tight as a drum here. If you're a beginner, the tight as a drum is a thing. And if you're working on a hoop, which maybe you are as a beginner, and that makes a lot of sense, right? Because why buy a bunch of expensive stuff if you're not really digging it, right? So do what makes sense for you, absolutely. Let me swing this one more time. There we go. That's better. That's better. Just trying to get the perfect position. And if you are working with a hoop and you're thinking this is not tight enough, that is not what I would call tight as a drum, well, then just get a little bit of that gauze, that self-adhesive gauze from the first aid aisle of any pharmacy, and wrap it around your bottom loop or your top hoop, one of the hoops, right? Not both, because you'll never be able to shut it again. And it'll tighten your hoop up a lot more. It'll tighten your hoop up enough for you to be able to get going and to get a feel for, I love it or I don't love it, right? Now I just clipped on a magnet. I have lots of these little magnets that hold my scissors and my hook. They don't hold every hook, right? They don't hold Hartman hooks. They only hold certain metals, right? They don't hold like brass and things like that. And I like having that right there. If you don't have that kind of a metal magnet or whatever, you just put your stuff on the side of you. I just put it there so that while I'm live, it doesn't all fly away. Just grab some water and then let's dig in. I really do love this pattern. Oh, I just realized I left my gray downstairs. I'll have to, if I get that far, I'm going to have to check because I gave you some gray in the packet for the little face. So let me show you some of the color schemes we've got going. Now, if you have the kit, you have got an orange that changes color. So I ombre dyed these oranges. It goes from a lighter kind of orange to a dark rust. And that is intended for the background behind the sheep. Now, this pattern is called Black Sheep. So you should also have a skein of this weight yarn, right? This is, remember this stuff from years ago? I keep some of this so I can put it between Joss's toes like this at night and tickle her. She loves that. So it's tickle yarn. So you should have this black tickle yarn, quite a big skein of it, more than you're going to need to complete the black sheep. Now, if you're feeling funky and you're thinking, I like the black yarn and I would like a black sheep, but I would rather have, I don't know, a green sheep, a mottled green sheep, then you do that. Then switch it out. If you prefer, you've got, yeah, this color that's like a mixed yellowy base. Mine is a little different, right, than yours. Yours is more of a neutral base with some specks of like purpley colors, a little bit of darker color speckled in. If you prefer that for the sheep, go ahead and make the executive decision. Monique, great to see you. It's midnight, you naughty girl. You are up having some fun, huh? I might be falling asleep too. We'll see if we can get through together. See how much we get done. Yeah, you can switch out your colors. I just want to remind you, you have this color as well, right? This bright sort of purpley color, really grapey. If you prefer to have the sheep in that color, I'm kind of looking at that now and thinking maybe I do want the sheep in that color. I don't know. Interesting. Huh. I'm thinking it through. This is me color planning as I go because I know you have a lot of extra. I know we have choices. There's two colors of pink in there. This my monitor is probably a bit off. Let me just, I don't think I can change the color. Let me see if I can change. This is, I have a different light here. No, it's just on and off. Oh no, that's a blue light. No, that doesn't help. I guess that's, no, that's more orange. Nope. We're going to stick with that. But this looks more orange in my monitor, but this is like a true rose pink, and this is a dusty rose for sure. So these are both absolutely pinks. And these are meant to go mixed in the background of the corner pieces. That was or here. Oh, I forgot I also gave you cranberry. I don't have cranberry myself. The stripe of cranberry is meant to go here. Again, this is just what I was thinking in my mind. I gave you more colors than will fit this design. So, you know, it might be up to you whether you would like to, instead of making this in my mind was the mottled green, right? Mine is much darker. Yours is much prettier. But this is the mottled green. This is the mixed oranges. The sheep is meant to be that black tickle yarn. And the feet I was going to do in grays. You should have a tiny, tiny bit of white to do the eyes, right? And this puff of hair is the same color as the sheep himself, right? I was going to use the gray to do the details on the face. And your pieces are cut to 6 if you have this as a kit. But you know, if 6 is too thick for little tiny stuff like this, right? Little stuff like this, then you're just going to cut it in half with your scissors, right? And make a thin strip even thinner. You can also think about more things to think about, right? Let's put a bunch of things out there to think about. You could also think about using some of your colors to outline. Like maybe you want to do an outline here rather than the border, the sawtooth border one color and the interior a different color. Maybe you want to also make this a color. I'm feeling like I do want to do that actually. And I was thinking for this color that you would use it for the text. Although you might want to use this color for the text because it's a little bit thinner. Might make more sense to use this one for the text and then the other one for up here. Ba ba, right? One ba is reversed. Interesting. Now, this is the stage where for a project for myself too, I kind of look at it and think, Yeah, let me make some decisions. I can always pull out. Oh, and this line I hadn't decided. I figured it would be one of the colors that you didn't use, the swirl of earth that black sheep is standing on. I have an angry looking black sheep too. Hope yours doesn't look as angry as that. Oh, and I had some plaid, right? I used up that pretty blue and teal plaid for your kits and I cut this one instead. I still like it. I just didn't have a placement in mind for it. So I figured, let me just bring it. Another thing I want to say before I get started is if you are using the tickle yarn, you see that this yarn is more than one ply. It's, I think, 2 puffy plies, right? So if you're using the tickle yarn and you're thinking, I don't want to use it for the sheep or I want to use it for something besides the sheep, I would unply it and it'll make a single ply that is half the thickness or gauge of the yarn itself, right? It makes 2 separate ply, which is another interesting thing too, because it could be used, well, for words. I think maybe these words are too small unless you have the large version. Could be for the baba, it could be for in here, right? These lines here. Interesting. All right. So, you know what? Let me start with, I'm thinking this through. I'm going to start with hooking ombre, the background. And my idea was that it would be the color changing orange. So let me start with the color changing orange and let me see if I like it. Now that I said it, I'm kind of hot on the idea of hooking. I'm really hot on that idea actually of hooking. You know what? I think I'm going to do this first. I'm going to strike out on a limb and I'm going to hook, this is my plaid. I'm going to hook this to create a distinction there between the sawtooth backing like the arch and behind the sheep. I think I'm going to hook the plaid here. You have a lot more plaid than I have too, so I'm hoping I won't run out. And here. That's my plan, is to hook it in those 2 places. And another thought, right? I'm super distracting myself here. I've got this bar here that separates the text. I might on mine raise it a little bit because on mine, I think it's less so on yours. It's almost touching the thing. So I think I'm going to start a little bit lower because I might raise this line to give myself a little more room for text. I busted out my little, what is this, Claire Murray hook. I love this. You could put counting sheep. Absolutely. Oh, you're so tired, huh? Oh man, I'm not tired. I feel so nauseous right now. I'm wondering. I don't think it's allergies. God knows. I think it's just I'm working at too much of a gallop right now because I'm trying to get ready for our vacation, right? And that always is really trying. I'm just coming to the edge of this sawtooth and I'm thinking, do I want to snip or do I want to make that turn? It was kind of, you know what? I think I'm gonna, I don't do this a lot because you know I always have a thing in my head with, I don't know if this hook is going to work for me. The Claire Murray hook used to be my favorite, but it's really not pulling. I know I'm right on the edge of my frame. Let me move this over a little bit. Right on the edge of the frame. This used to be my favorite hook because a couple years ago, I don't know if you remember me complaining that I left the Claire Murray hook at a hotel room when I went to Concord, Mass. I had it down. It was hooking in the chair, so I assume it went down the side of the chair in the cushion, you know. And I was lamenting that because it was my best one. And then I got used to living without it. I'm gonna bring you right down on my hands. And then I found another one, and this is it. And yeah, I guess things have changed because it doesn't feel as natural in my hand anymore. I guess I've been using some other ones in the meantime. So I'm literally just hooking on this line, which is an option. As I say, if you're logging on a little bit later and you have this pattern, you can hook it however you want. I'm using my plaid to create this line here, right around the edge. I'm hooking right on the line. And I'm going to answer these questions that I always bring up during these hook-alongs. Am I supposed to hook, I'm a beginner, am I supposed to hook on the line, inside the line, or outside the line? And I think most of us typically hook on the line. And the general rule of thumb is it really doesn't matter, but choose one and stick with it, because otherwise you're going to distort the lines of your pattern. So I kind of like the idea of hooking some definition here because even without, if you choose not and you just do the inner border and the outer border with the sawtooth, it's going to look great. I just suddenly looked at this and I thought, wait a minute, I think I have a use for you. I can also, as I'm going to do here, reach underneath and pull my loop up, twisting it underneath at a different angle, right? So I brought the end up right like that. Let me come a little bit closer, and I'm going to bring my light a little bit closer too. There we go. Looks so nighttimey in here when I've got all the lights on it like that. Let me hook up here. I might have to open the window in a minute because it feels oppressively hot, and that is not helping with feeling nauseous. I don't know what it is. Does feeling nauseous go with allergies? I mean, I don't think so. I'm wondering if I have a different hook around. I thought, oh good, I'm going to be able to use this hook, my old friend, right? My old long lost friend. And it's given me quite a bit of different. Nothing wrong with Claire Murray hooks, I want to add. It's just I'm not used to this one. And monk's cloth, yeah, this could be a problem. I might run downstairs and get my other hook. And my other hook that I have on the table, it's just a plain beginner hook. I don't normally go to it. It's a Heritage brand hook. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Let me see. Give myself another minute. Yeah, Gretty, thank you. I like the plaid too. I wish the lighting was a bit. Let me see if I can make the lighting a bit better. Let me come up here. Oh, that's maybe a bit better. Hang on, I'm just going to open the door. I feel like it's already getting hideously warm in here. And, oh, God, that's better. Holy mackerel. Yeah, it just struck me all of a sudden that it might, you know, if I have enough of the plaid, you are going to have enough, sorry, bothering me that I keep getting stuck. You are going to have enough. I might also hook this line, the arch that goes around, if I have enough plaid. I cut a little bit of plaid when I was running out of the studio like an hour ago, because, you know, I was there earlier. We did the live show. We kept going with our gallery night entries, and on Wednesday we'll go even further with the gallery night entries. And God, they're so good. Everybody's sending in the most tremendous work. It really is something to see such a wave of amazing work in such inspiring projects, right? That's the thing. So I'm leaving my tails up. If you're a beginner, leaving your tails up is kind of a thing. Mainly a thing because while my hand is underneath feeding the wool strips up, right? I'm not starting exactly from the beginning, right? If you're a complete beginner, I often start with the teaching frame and all that, and I really am kind of hanging on by a thread with not feeling well. So I'm kind of jumping into the body of it. But if you're a true beginner and you'd like to see a project done from beginning to end, you can always log on to those past ones because you know that in different hook-alongs, they're all recorded, they're all there for you. I say different things at different times depending on how I'm prompted with the thread, how our chatting goes, and also what the hooking itself makes me think of. So it's different every time. I am reaching underneath and I'm twisting the wool strip as I go. So you can see I'm a little bit off the line on this one. I'm going to see if it matters. I'm twisting the wool strip as I go underneath, and that will sort of dictate the direction that the loop comes up. Now, if you are an absolute beginner and you're thinking, how is she doing that? I'm twisting it and it's not working. How is she going this fast? Well, it's just because I've been doing this, you know, for a while. So it's not like there's anything magic that I'm doing. I'm literally just feeding the wool strip up from the bottom. And because I've been doing this for a while, my hand is used to communicating with my brain and with my eyes, and my eyes are saying, here, you want to put the next piece here. That's the next spot that makes sense along the line. Don't want to put my loops too close together because that's called packing. And then when my loops are packed, everything gets a bit buckly, right? And that's a bit miserable. Come over here a little bit more. So my hand is underneath, feeding up that strip, and my hook is on top, reaching down into the backing fabric and pulling up the strip. And you can see sometimes I come up, I pull up and it seems like it's the wrong hole. I feel like I'm a little bit out of line. And then I just pull it out. I just pull that one back out and no big deal, right? And then I try again and see if I've got something I like better. You might have the kind of frame where you can't keep turning it the way I'm turning it. And if that's the case, it's a little bit slower. I've got a tiny frame right here on this table. This is a frame I got years ago when I lived in the Netherlands. My mom sent me this one when I was starting my first rug hooking project. It was the very first. And because it was an international box, I'm going to cut this one because in terms of the lengths, I don't want to do another loop because it'd be too long. Because it was an international box, you know, we got a little frame, and I didn't know if I'd like it, so we got a little frame, and it came with this little kit of a leaf. I've showed that on Coffee Time before. Very, very basic, but I ended up keeping. That's the end of the tail. I'm going to pull it back through and see if I can do one more loop with it, a little bit closer. Now I can't pull the tail up. Let me see, can I? Yeah, I can. Look at that. Just enough. Sometimes if I can't pull the tail up, I'm like, that's okay. I'm just going to leave it underneath, right? And you can see I'm making some progress already. And if you are not making this kind of progress and you're working on the pattern with me, is it a big deal? It's absolutely not a big deal, right? Nobody's going to cry themselves to sleep over this. I'm looking at I hope not anyway. I'm looking at the way hey Cats Gallery, I'm looking at the way that the plaid is coming out. I really like it. I really like it. And your plaid is way more of a greeny teal. It's way more colorful than this plaid. So if you're doing the same thing that I'm doing, I'll be anxious to see how yours turns out or how your plaid turns out in general, because I used it all up making these kits and it really was pretty. I'm starting to second guess whether I want this here because this is very thick. I'm looking at this now with a lot of interest. This is the really bright purple. And I think I'm going to just get a feel for color now, right? Sometimes I color plan by just getting going. And then I'll decide, no, I like that color. I want that to be present, but I don't like it there. You know what's happening already? I think I want to make this twice as thick. This yarn is a little bit thin, right? So this is more of like a worsted weight yarn. I'm used to hooking with more like a 3-ply. So I'm going to just double it up. I just cut it, I'm doubling it up, and I'm going to hook with the 2 layers of yarn. And I'm just going to see how it looks here. I'm just experimenting, color planning as I go. Sometimes when you put the colors out on the table, like with this, I haven't hooked it yet because I'm hooking it now, and that's what this project is for. Oh, Kim, Solo Camper and Married Traveler. I remember you logged on before because I loved that name. Hi from Australia, just finishing off a piece I was making while on a trip to the Outback. It was gorgeous. Oh, I can't wait. I bet it was gorgeous, and I can't wait to see the piece you're working on. That is so exciting. Good for you, traveling and living it up down under. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going on vacation on Thursday, so I can't complain. Very early vacation. Now, I want to return to that subject because the subject of vacation is right on for me right now. I'm doubling it up, so it looks like I'm really thick here. It's actually not. I think this is absolutely perfect. It almost looks a little grassy. I'm pulling it up a little bit higher than I would anything else, like wool strips. With yarn, I always pull it up a little bit higher because I know in terms of competing for weight and sort of status in a finished piece, the yarn is always a little bit thinner, right? No matter what. Even though I'm doing 2-ply, individually it's thinner. And it needs a little more clout. So whether I'm hooking it double or not, I'm always pulling it up a little bit higher than I would pull up a wool strip because I fully anticipate, just coming around the bend here, that it might kind of disappear into the woodwork if I don't pop it a little bit height-wise. Now, should your piece have, probably not hooking in a way that you can see it very well, sorry about that. Let me come over here. Should your piece have exactly the same pile right across the board? Should your height be completely the same throughout? No way. Not unless you want it to. If you want it to, that's something to strive for. But if you don't want it to, then you should pull it up however high you want it. Some pieces may be more so than others. Now, underneath I ran out of that 2nd ply, so I've got a single ply here, and I'm right at the end of what I can do. So I'm going to pull up the end of that, and it looks like a mess right now. So what I'm tempted to do, tempted to open the window. Hang on one second, because it is warm in here. That is not helping with this sick feeling. And hopefully it's not the allergy thing that's making me sick, because now I'm opening up the windows, right? Kind of counterintuitive. So what I'm going to do next, now, you know, people often say, I always say this, I'm going to take this off because color-wise, that's distracting me. I always say this, you know, What should I hook first? Well, I mean, that really is up to you. For me, you can see I'm fairly unpredictable in the way that I hook. I felt like hooking, sorry if you can hear the cars, I really need that air. I wanted to hook this first, right? Because I was kind of getting a feel for how it would look. And then that made me want to use that because these colors are really good together. And now that I've got this in, and it looks like a bit of a cluster, it makes me wonder how the background is going to play out. So I've got my orange color changing, and my plan with the color changing, because it goes from dark to light, you see it's dip dyed, so it's quite a lot of variation in the one strand. I was planning to go from like dark to light, right? So I'm thinking about how to do that now that I've done this with the line. I'm thinking, is that still going to work? Let's see. Now I'm torn. Well, you know what? This is what it's all about, isn't it? Because once you've been hooking for a while, you can get bored. So I'm going to first experiment with the original idea, which was to hook dark to light. Let's see how this goes. And you definitely don't have to follow this kind of plan of hooking dark to light. You hook it however you want. If you don't want it to go sort of ombre anything, then, you know, just go higgledy-piggledy around the sheep, right? That's fine too. And your color changes land where they land. I'm starting to think, do I want to do that too? What would the background look like if I went dark to light and it was all just... I think I do want to do that. I think I do. Do I change my mind like this every time I work on a piece? Yeah, I definitely do. But you know, that's the fun of it, because like I say, when you're hooking for a little while... Wait a minute, you see what's going on here? I like the way this is looking coming up. I'm wondering if I should have started with the lighter end first. I'm wondering if it's going to be enough pop. Let's see what we've got. I'm going to squiggle around here and follow this line. When you've been hooking for a while, sometimes you need to challenge yourself when you get going with a project and find your fun, right? Hooking something the way that it's meant to be hooked or the way that you planned it sometimes falls by the wayside when you get started and you think, no, I think I'd rather do this instead, or let me see how that would look. Or with a kit like this one where there's a lot of extra fabric and you know that you have choices, sometimes it's fun. See, that is a bit dark. I'm not sure that that's popping enough. I'm kind of torn. Let me clip on top. I'm always clipping on top, right? Try to keep my tails on top when it, oops, I pulled half that under. When it makes sense, just so you don't pull your loops up from behind, right? That's the only reason we clip on top. I'm going to switch to the lighter end because I feel like it's going to be way more visible. Might be that I end up taking that little piece out. So I'm feeling in here for, yep, the inside of that. The only thing about putting that double loop in, right, doing 2-ply with the yarn, was that it has potential now to be a bit of a mess. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of experimenting and seeing whether I can get away with keeping that thickness of purple yarn and still have a legible kind of background. The reason I dip dyed the orange background color is so that you could go dark to light. And I'm not taking advantage of the dip dye by going dark to light. So thanks, Gayla. I really like it too. It definitely has more impact when you do. But I'm more curious at this moment to see how it looks when I don't plan it. Seems like it's very close in value. It does. This one definitely seems close in value. I don't think it's as close as it looks on the monitor, just because the colors are not good. And I've got the light on, and it's daytime, and there's a ring light. Let me try turning the ring light off. Maybe that's actually making it worse. Huh. I think that's too dark though, isn't it? It's a tough call, I have to say. I'm kind of surprised that it's that tough of a call. Let's see. The orange. Well, it does a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I like the orange. I'm going to keep it in. Can you not do that? I already did that. Yeah, just keep it on high. Sorry, I'm grouchy. Let's see. I'm even thinking at this point, and I don't think I will because I'll never make progress if I change my mind 100 times. But I'm even thinking, I kind of wish that I had done the green in the background. If you have the green, you can do that in the background if you want. It's just a thought. I'm going to keep going with it the way that it is, right? I think it's going to be okay. I'm going to do leap of faith. Now, I landed on a loop. I'll bring you a little bit closer. I landed on a loop, and I feel like if I cut the loop in half, I'm going to lose something. You seem like you're a little bit out of focus there. Are you in focus? Huh, seems a little bit out of focus. Could be me and my glasses. I'm starting to wonder if my dizziness has to do with my glasses, you know, because I'm always dizzy. Let's see. Let me know if that looks out of focus for you. It's really hard for me to tell. I'm going to leave the loop there, and I'm going to cut my tail underneath, right? So as I always say in these hook-ins, right, you're supposed to leave. I'm going to rise up just a little bit because I feel like that's a bit out of focus. See if that's any better. Of course, I got two different distances because my frame is higher on this side than it is on this side. Wacky, right? So I think this is going to be okay. I might have lost the purple line in doing the line in purple. So if you are just approaching and you're watching me first, you might be thinking, not sure that purple is working for the line. She might lose the line with the color changing orange because it is close in value. And although it's bright and it should pop, I'm not sure that it's popping enough. I'm going to keep going because these hook-ins are also in part about experimentation. You know, that's a good idea, Gayla. I'm going to have another sip of my drink. I do not know what's wrong with me lately. I went to the doctor again, and they're sending me for a CT scan. Could just be stress, could be menopause, could be anything. Insanity, stupidity, just being hangry a lot. I realized I hadn't eaten lunch because I was jamming after coffee time to get some orders out because we're going away on Thursday. I keep saying that because it's my happy thought. And yeah, I think maybe I just pushed myself a little bit too hard today. I hope that's it, right? I hope I'm not about to drop dead. I hope that's it. And I can see there's a little hole in here. That's one of the things about hooking with a combo of yarn and wool. Sometimes you got to feel around, do the dental pick, right? The dental pick in here. Sorry to bring up a sore subject, right? Nobody likes, well, I don't like the dentist. I go religiously, but I don't love it, I have to say. I do the dental pick technique, just feeling around for where the next logical hole is. And especially with yarn, you know, you pull up, I doubled up like that, I got a situation created where I can't see my line anymore, and I got to feel for it with my hook, just feeling around for the hook. Now, at this moment, I am not sure. I usually second guess myself. I'm just going to get some water. I usually second guess myself 1,000 times. Might second guess myself more than 1,000 times with this. Because now I shot my mouth off and said you could do a lot of different things with the colors. And now I'm thinking about different things I want to do with the colors. I'm not going to pull out because it's a time thing for me, right? But things for you to think about if you are using your purple here. This could be, it could be cool or it could be confusing. It's too early to tell. You know what I'm going to do now? I'm just going to hook the edge of the sheep. I am all over the place when I hook. I have to admit, I am not a methodical hooker by any means, and I am totally all over the place. That's how I figure it out as I go along, and I often do make radical changes when I'm in progress. So this tickle yarn, as we call it in this house, is super, super lush. It's like a roving. It's actually from, what is it from? I think Red Heart. I think it's Red Heart. It's called, I think it's called Wool Ease, something like that. It's very thick. And you can see I'm able to pull up. I'm going to bring it in a little bit closer. Hopefully it will do. Focus. It is hard to focus because it's like a black mass. Let me show you the loops close up. Oh, it's hard to see them, isn't it? Because it's so dark. It's very high pile, the loops. They're super, super, super shiny and luminous. And they actually look like curls. They look just like curls. I'm going to come right up to the face. And what I'm really doing here is defining the silhouette of the sheep. Because I'm fooling with the background. And as you can see, with my color changes and with fooling around with the colors, the purples and the oranges, I created something of an unstable background. Come up a little bit. And by unstable, I mean color-wise, I'm not sure it's going to work. I'm not sure that in the end I'm not going to pull it out. But, hey, Linda Ann! And don't worry, this isn't over his face. It's not even on that side of the line. It's just that this wool is very bulky. Does this mean that when I approach his face later, put that thought on hold for a second because I want to show you something. Well, let me finish this. When I approach the face, I'm going to have to be thoughtful of that. And I think it's going to make sense to pull down the height a little bit near the face. Because otherwise, if I stay at this height, I've got this part of his body quite high up. It's very lofty. When I come over here to his face, I'm pulling it a little bit lower because otherwise, when I hook this with the gray wool, I'm going to have to pull it really high. I don't really want to do that because the higher I pull wool strips, right, the more you're going to really be able to see and define each loop. And I'm not sure that that's a good thing. That has potential to look confusing. So I'm pulling down a bit more on the loops that are around the face. The reason I'm stalled here is, can you see that there's like a tiny bit of cheek right here? I am very OCD with stuff like this. And I don't want another loop there because that's going to be too much. I just want a half. So I'm going to pull it up and get the tail in there so I can still see my line. And this is a nice sharp line right here for when I hook the face, the dark gray color. So I'm just putting all my ducks in a row with stuff like that. If you feel like you overdo it and you get too close to the face, you can always cut back later or pull back later. Just going to trim down, which I normally wouldn't do during, but I just want you to see that there is a rhyme or a reason to this. Try not to leave too many loops up on this either. Kind of concentrating because this is tricky. I'm pulling real low with these because I'm worried about keeping that face clear for future loops. And I'm reminding myself as I go, hook a little bit lower here, right? Hook a little bit lower, you're going to run into some trouble. That was a bit too far away from the little face. If I hook too close to the face, right, I'll make a skinny face that might look like a malnourished sheep or an angry sheep. If I hook too far away from the line, I may end up with a totally different looking sheep. See how this loop is probably just too much again. So I'm going to cut that one too. It's too, half is okay, but this is very thick yarn. If the yarn makes you nervous while you're hooking it, unply it. Remember when I did this before? It's 2-ply. If it's making you nervous, unply it, right? Take it into 2 like that. If you want to go around the face with just 1 yarn, if that feels a bit more in control, do whatever makes the most sense for you. It's going to be very fast filling in. Now because I was fooling with the ply of the yarn, it's coming up uneven. So let me dental pick back in there. Instead of pulling up the tail, I'm just going to pull up, trim this a little bit. I'm going to pull up a whole loop. And I'm just checking, right? I'm checking with my finger. I don't want to crowd that face too much. I can still see the line all the way around. And I definitely will when I pull the loops up. I can always change it later. Just making sure I can see that face, because that's important. I don't want him to look like he's being smothered in his own fur. What a way to go, right? Smothered in your own fur. You have a little bit more water. Using a thick yarn like this obviously is going to hook up really fast. Sorry. I'm being really fussy with the camera right now because I keep turning my frame. And I know there's going to be times when my hand is in front of you, so I'm sorry about that. You keep going with your piece, and I'll just get a little bit of traction. I'm going to loop back around because, again, what I was really going for here was the silhouette of the sheep. I'm still kind of on the fence about... That was too far away. Still a little bit on the fence about the orange. I'm not sure doing it the way I'm doing it is going to be super successful. And I would like it to be successful, right? I also would like to go out on a limb. Oh, thank you, Gayla. I'd also like to go on a limb and do what I do, you know, and that's part of it too. You have to please yourself. Even, you know, even when you feel like, okay, so this is also, this goes the same for life, right? say something crazy, but it does go the same for life. Sometimes you know that you are making a bad decision or an impulsive decision, but sometimes it is the right thing to do, right? Who says we always have to be all buttoned up and together, right? You're allowed to make spontaneous, impromptu, selfish, all kinds of decisions in your life. And when I'm working on my hooking, sometimes I think, that's color-wise not the best choice. And right, I can hear other people looking at it and saying, yeah, she shouldn't have done that. It doesn't pop enough or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, that's all well and good. And I know that you're right, but I still really like that color. So sometimes, try to keep my hand away from the camera. Sometimes when you're working on a piece, you just have to please yourself. I mean, you really do. I'm having another crazy thought right now. This is a really crazy thought. I'm thinking, I don't even know if I want the gray to be in it. If I unply the black just a little bit, this would be an all black sheep. The reason I had the gray was for definition. I'm thinking I could pop the little eyes, right, with white and do a little bit of black, or I could even bring in one of the other colors in my box, like little green eyes. Kind of tempted to do that too. Then this would be an all black sheep. That would be a really strong silhouette. Anyway, the point I was making was you have to please yourself, right? You have to please yourself. When you're a beginner, I think you're always thinking about rules because you think somehow the rules are going to save you, right? And sometimes the rules don't save you, and I'm not sure that that's what rules are for. Hang on again. Let me get back to center. And there we go. Now, does that look like a sheep who's drowning in his own wool? Yes. And now I'm wondering, no, I think I have to do the gray. Do you think? Because if I do, I like the idea of I like the idea of all of him being black, but I'm just afraid I'm going to completely lose the features. Jody C. in Wyoming. Jody Cousins, it's you. Jody, I owe you a fiber tape for the Springtime in Central Park set. I realized when I sent it, I forgot to put the fiber tape in, and I said first 10 people, but you ordered it early, and whether or not you're first, I want to send it to you. So I owe that to you, and I know that in my head, so don't think I'm going to forget about that. So I'm giving this some serious thought. Now let me pan out a little bit more again. Do some more panning out, some real panning out here. Let me move my camera a little bit. You know what? Let me keep going with the body. I'm having hard times making decisions here. But you know why? Because this is a rug hooking project, and every time I do something, I really struggle with decision making, because when I'm making something for the first time, I'm making it for the first time. And I might have to get that gray out just to save him from his fur. I don't know. I don't know. All right, let's do his body and I'll think about it some more. Anyway, yeah. The point I was getting at was you have to do what you like, what feels best, what rings true to you. If it's making a purple sheep in a background that doesn't have enough contrast, but you're like, whoa, those colors are killing me. I love these colors. It makes me happy. Then that's what you should do, and forget about the technical stuff. Technical stuff will not save you. Technical stuff will give you a great context. It'll give you some tried and true answers, but it's not going to save you. It's not going to make you like a color combination that you don't like just because it's the right colors on the color wheel. You see what the dental pick did, right? This, I just felt with my hook, and I realized there's a big gap right here. Of course, when I turn it over, I'll see that too. And I don't want to pack. I don't want to pack at all. And I am making it a little bit higher up as I get away from his face. On the pattern, the shape of the sheep kind of went down here. Do you see that? So I'm not going to go straight across. I feel like I'd lose the detail of this ear. So if you're wondering what's she doing there, I am moving right across this way. And I'm leaving this little gap in here, which is part of the pattern. Looking at my phone too, I can see my sister's writing because my daughter Jocelyn is going riding tonight. So I think she's got her, and I think Jocelyn's got her riding pants. Otherwise, she's going to bump in behind me and grab her riding pants out of her dresser since I'm sitting in her room. make sure that whatever you do, that it pleases you, right? Sorry, my guy's upside down right now, just for a minute while I work on his body. Make sure it pleases you. That's the main thing. If I gave you colors and you're not happy with the way that I'm doing mine or that I intended them to be, you do it your way. If you want to add different colors and save the materials I gave you for a different project, then you should do that. Make sure that as you go along, you're really happy with what you're doing while you're going. That's why it takes me a little bit of time with these live events to think it through, because I'm thinking about all my options. If you're wondering what you like playing Scrabble, pretty bad, right? Because I'm thinking it through, and it takes me some time. We have to put a sands through the hourglass thing out when we play Scrabble, just so, you know, people like me don't take too long, because I don't want to, and I know that it's awful playing against someone in a game where they take too long, but it's one of these things that you need to consider, isn't it? Decisions like this while you're working on your colors and your color planning, and it's not something that's planned for you. This is planned for you. But as with all my kits, I probably overcomplicate things by giving you way too much material. And when you receive it, you're probably thinking, well, hold on, I could do this with the green instead of that, and is that what I want to do? And it's definitely good to think about the options. It's good to think creatively, isn't it? Linda Ann says, do you have a really dark gray that's almost black? Yeah, the gray that's for this kit is really dark gray, and it is almost black. So I guess I should use that. I don't think he looks like he's drowning in his wool. He's not once I get in there. So I also want to say, while I'm thinking of it, I screwed up my calendar because I moved this hook in, and Linda Ann's birthday was actually, sorry, Linda Ann, I have to say, it was actually yesterday, and I'm the worst friend, because when I moved the hook in date on the calendar, it brought her birthday too. And then today I said, happy birthday, and I posted it in the Facebook group, and it was yesterday. So sorry about that. But super happy birthday, and I'm sending lots of love, and can't wait to see you in person. Yeah, so dark gray would be a good, dental pick time. Did you see that little flash of white in there? I'm going to move this a little bit lower. Now, you're not going to, I am packing right now, right? I am definitely packing. You're not going to be able to see those kinds of gaps. If I can't see them without doing dental pick, then they really are not a consideration, right? And I do not want to pack. I'm going to force myself with stuff like this, because this is like scab, scratching, pimple picking, like territory, where I'm like being super, super fussy with something stupid. And those are gross analogies. Sorry about that. But you know what I mean. I'm going to stop with the dental pick stuff, because that is so me to want to do that. And I'm packing. And I know I'm packing, right? Can you tell I'm packing? I mean, look at them. This is how you know I'm packing, because, right, it's already tight up here. And I do tend to pack. So the way that I'm going to stop myself from packing is to stop doing the dental pick thing, right? For myself. You don't have to stop, but I'm going to stop for myself. And if there are terrible big gaping holes later, I'm going to unply into 2 pieces with this one yarn, and I'm going to fill them in that way. But if I'm not seeing them in the normal sort of course of things, if I'm not seeing the gaps, then the gaps aren't there to see, are they? Now, I am packing, right, with this yarn. So if you run out of this yarn and you have this kit, let me know and I'll send you some more. I run the risk myself of running out, because I hooked him a little bit outside, more than a little bit outside the lines, and I'm packing. This is always worrying, and this is why, as a rug hooking brand, it's very hard to gauge how much people are using. I always give more than I think you could ever use, but some people really pack or hook really high or hook outside the lines, as I've been doing myself, and it changes the quantities hugely. Oh, now I could see that. If you hear those tiny footsteps, that is Buttons the dog, wondering who I'm talking to. He's a ding-dong, but he does seem to know what goes on in this house. Yeah, just going to relax as I hook the rest of his body. I wasn't planning to hook all his body in one go, but I think I will. Because I think it's going to help me make hard decisions about the background. I've only hooked that one strand of orange, so it's not like I have to keep going with that. And if the purple is not working, I have to be realistic about that too. I want to do something that makes me happy, but at the same time, I want a piece that looks successful. And I want this to be a good example for you if you're hooking this with me. So I don't want to make very selfish choices and hammer a square peg into a circle hole just because I like orange and purple, and they happen to be my favorite color combination. Man, I love this yarn. I know it's hard to tell because it's just all black, but it is just like roving. I'm kind of cutting it a little bit as I go. It's just like roving, super, super thick. I'm making a real effort to not pull it up too high because I'm thinking about quantity. I'm thinking about texture, but it really close up, I'll show you close up in a minute, looks like little tiny curls. And even though I'm trying not to dental pick, I can tell I'm still packing because this is like a stop me before I kill again. I can feel my hand underneath. I'm going to intentionally stop. Just going to zip my mouth for a second and focus on what I'm doing because I'm making some bad decisions here. And I know how I hook, right? And if you're a beginner, you'll figure this out about yourself too. You tend to do things that you know are naughty and they're going to come back to bite you, but sometimes it's very hard to stop. For me, packing is one of those things. I've got that thing in my head. Oh, there's a space. If there's a space, getting closer, I'm still doing it. And I can see I should be 1 or 2 holes over, logically. And yeah, I'm just, it's hard to retrain your brain, right? I'm just being real careful to not overdo it. And his little body's filling in really nice. This is a big part of the motif. Now that was a hole, so I'm going back there. This is a big part of the motif, so it makes a lot of sense and is important that his body's a good shape. I'm going to just give you a warning. If you are working on this pattern, I probably should not have hooked outside the lines that much. This is a very chubby sheep going on here. I still like the way he looks. It might be that I alter him later, but by going outside just a hair with a yarn of this thickness, it changed his shape. So what I said at the beginning about, am I supposed to hook on the lines, inside the lines, or outside the lines? And I said, well, ideally on the line, but choose one and stick with it. I hooked right on the line or right outside the line with this yarn, but because it's so thick, it really changed the shape of him, right? His little body is essentially the same silhouette, but he's a lot plumper because of the weight of the yarn. So be thinking about that. Be thinking about that. If you're kitted, be thinking about that, because I gave you 20-something yards, which sounds like a lot, and it should be a lot, but if you are super packing it, you might run short. But again, just let me know because I still have some. And we are almost there with his little body. Let's finish that up so it looks really good and strong. Oh, Judy, good to see you. Had your grandson's ball game. Oh, how fun. Did he win? Gonna go have to watch and hook tomorrow. Oh, no problem. And how did he do at his ball game? Did he do okay? I guess we're going to be heading into that. See, I found this little hole here, but I'm going to leave it alone for this moment. Just for the moment, I'm going to leave it alone. Because I just said I wasn't going to do that picking thing, right? Getting in there and picking tons. We're not at that phase yet, at least at this moment with our lives, with my 2 kids being 9 and 11. Joss is off to go horseback riding. And I'm feeling like she doesn't have a tremendous amount of stick-to-itiveness at this point. And she's just a little girl, so it's not like, super surprising. But she loves horseback riding because she goes with my sister Jessica, who's a great horsewoman. And it's something that they do together. Now look what I'm doing. Do you see what I'm doing? I said I was not going to do it. I'm just going to come up over here. I can't stop. I can't stop. It's my nature. I'm just going to come up there, and I just cut that one there. Now look it. He's really drowning. It's because we're getting really packed, right? This is like a horror movie where the people are stuck on a submarine or something, and there's sharks in the water or something like that, and they're trapped in some place with a metal like door on it, and the water's rising, right? That's what the sheep is going through right now. Oh, he's 8. How cute is that? They did win. Congrats. Feels good to win, right? Feels good to be a winner. Just going to come over here just a little bit with my hands. See if I can get you a little bit closer. The black does not want to come into focus. You can see it a little bit down here right now. I think it's because it's so dark. I'm just going to try to get my hand in a bit better. Let's see if we can do that. No, that's not going to work, is it? Because I'm coming in the opposite direction. Let me come at you this way. See if we can do that. Yeah, none of my kids, well, none. I've only got the 2. do competitive sports. Teddy's not doing anything right now. They both stopped doing their karate. They got tired of that. They were at it for a while, and they got tired of it. Joss got tired of her dancing too, her lyrical dance. So, 200 each for 2 costumes, and she decided she just did not want to do it anymore. And they have their recital this month, but I'm not the kind of mom who forces that. If she doesn't want to go, it's just a loss, isn't it? Maybe we can use the costumes for Halloween or whatever. But yeah, sports can be such a big thing. I know a lot of her. You know what? I'm going to move my camera here. Let me see if I can get you here. I'm just experimenting a little bit with what we can do because I can see my hand. Let's see if this works any better. No, it's not going to, is it? Try something else. My hand is all over the place, and I'm trying not to make you seasick. Moving my cutting machine. Got a lot going on here. Uh-oh. That could work. Let's see. Let's try this. I've only got a little bit of him left anyway. Yeah, he's definitely full. He's definitely full. Let's see. Let me get him done. Sorry, my hand is right over him, but it's just the most natural way for me to do it. Just for a minute. And then I'll be conscious of being somewhere else on the backing so you can see my hands better if you're brand new. Doing a little bit of feeling around because it feels like there's just not a lot of material there. Yep, I'm going to pull up right here. I'm going to cut again. And it is hard to tell because of how dark this is, but you got to trust me. These loops look so luxurious. They're so shiny. Can you see that a little bit? Oh, you can see it right now, can't you? Do you see how shiny they look? It looks like, when you see coats like this from the 50s, 60s, they look looped. I don't think they're fur. No, they can't be fur, right? You know what I mean? It must be wool, like boucle, but much just like this. You know what I mean? I can picture black hats and coats from the 50s with just this finish with these lustrous black loops. I don't know what that material's called. The sheep looks sweet. Oh, thanks, Melissa. We're going to rescue him from his own face in a minute. We're going to rescue him from his neck. I know, Linda Ann, right? So this is Red Heart. This is like really, and it says wool. I think it's called Wool Ease, but it ain't wool. It's like 100% acrylic. But for this, it's absolutely perfect. The thickness is perfect. It's making the curls perfect. If you do finish this piece and you want to block it, do it. Block it. Just first test it with the face cloth over this because it's acrylic, right? So that you don't burn all of the curls. And try not to pack like me if you're kitted because I'm using way too much material. Way too much. As I'm cautioning against packing, right? That's definitely me. I'm still really torn. I am going to do his face in the gray, but I'm really torn about whether I should I'm going to do that little dit dot on top of his head. I'm torn on the feet, if I should do them in the gray or the black. What do you all think? Because I sound like one of my videos the kids watch, right? They always going, oh, tell me what you think. Vote on this, vote on that. It's like, oh, God. I don't want to sound like that. I'm going to come up one more time and I'm going to leave the tail up because his body is essentially done at this point. He's wearing like a turtleneck, isn't he? And he's like, I'm really warm right now. Please help. If you can see me, please help. Poor little thing. Look at him. His face really is in there. So, boy, am I torn. Because I'm just thinking, how cute would his legs look in the black as well? I'm going to stall for another minute by hooking up his forehead here. Is he going to look like he's... Now, this time, I learned my lesson. I'm going to start way inside this poodle puff on top here. I'm not going to do it over here as I did the body because it just ate up his entire... And I'm leaving my tail under, right? Because I want everything to be a loop at this point. This is a small patch of little poodle puffs, and I really want to control the way that the loops are looking because I got a little out of control on the body, and I ain't going to pull it out. So I'm just going to be a little bit more controlled up here. Thanks, Judy. I think he's going to look okay. he's going to look okay. And I'm feeling a bit better too, so that's a good thing. Maybe I just needed to eat. Maybe the stress level's coming down because we're spending some time together and I'm just kind of relaxing now and I'm not in that crossing off things on a sheet mode. And got myself into a bit of a tailspin, I guess. And last night I was at the studio until about 8:30, and then I started working on the book. I got into a book panic since I'm late with that. So I came home and it was quite late. I ate late, and then I started working on the book for a couple hours before bedtime. And then even in bed, I was in bed with Joss last night. I'm going to leave the tails under. Actually, wait a minute. No, I'm going to pull up in the middle here because there's a little gap, and I'm going to leave the tail here. I was in bed with Joss, and I was still going over my book. I'll tell you about that in a minute. It's from the Design Like thing, but I'm still going to share because I had some great stories I read that I want to share with you. Now, I'm sorry, this poor little guy, I might have to run downstairs and get my gray because I just wonder if I can rescue him from his neck. I really like the color. Yeah, can you, no, it's like the gray material on the work table in front of the TV. Okay. Yeah, it's like dark gray. It's very thick. Wool. You know what? I think I'm going to hook. I'm just going to hook his little legs in black just to see. Let me see how this looks. And again, with little details like this, I am keeping the tails under just because I really want control. It might be that because of the shape, I don't know if that's going to work. I know I don't have the whole leg in there. No, I don't think that's going to work because it looks like he's in his pajamas. I'm going to pull that out for now. I'm going to hold and wait on the gray. Let's hold and wait on that. All right, let's come back up here. And let me get you straight again before you get all sick too. And let's see. Let me come here. All right. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking about it. I'm not real happy with this area here, I have to say. This is not helping at all. I usually like having this colorful thing on, but right now, while I'm thinking about colors, that's not helping. I am still very happy with this. You know what I think I'll do next? Maybe I'll do a little bit more. I think the gray's coming up. Maybe I'll do a little bit with the gray. No, it's material. I'll have to come down. Nope, none of that's right. I'll take a little bit of that, but yeah. No, I'll come down. Yeah, I'm going to have to go down and get that gray in a minute. If I'm going to do his face, I left that on the table like a ding-dong, looking to see if I have anything here that would work, and I don't think so. I'm really torn on this. This doesn't look like it's standing out well enough to me. It's definitely not making me happy. And you know, this is something we talk about a lot, right? If it's not making you happy, I love the purple, and I said I wasn't going to do this, but I am going to pull the purple out. It's not making me happy, and I don't think it's going to work. I think it's confusing. So let's see where we are with this. That might have been a bad call. I'm going to rethink. Because remember, this line was the only part of the composition I really didn't have a plan for. I don't want to use this because I could cut it, but I think it's still going to be too thin. I am thinking about this yarn. That could work really well. I don't want to use black because I think that's going to be super confusing. I could use the green, the color changing green that we have. That could work. You know, maybe I'll do that. Let's do that. Let's give that a try. So I'm going to come over here. And remember, your green is much brighter than mine. So your green is going to be even better with your orange because there's going to be a lot more contrast. This is just a green that I found. I was in a hurry. I thought close enough for me with my piece. I'm just going to cut a few of these greens while we're here. This is an old card table, shaking like crazy. I'll cut a few of these. It's a nice bliss cutter, and my cutter head right now is a 5. I think it's the right number for this pattern because it is a little bit fiddly. All right, let's see if I can get back in there with that line. Now that's going to be good contrast. See if I can get back in there with that line. I'm going to come at you like this. And let's see. Well, sorry, I am going to actually have to do this so I can see it a bit better. And I'll bring you to me. Now, This is actually the technique that I use. See, now the gap is a bit too big because I had the double purple in. That's all right. Let's see how it goes. I'm doing a lot of belly aching, huh? Let's see how this goes. This is the technique I use when I'm doing lettering. And what it is you hook, and then you, oh, that's not the green. Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. You hook around it, whatever filigree thing you're working on. Like if you're doing letters, that's considered filigree, numbers, any fine parts. You hook around it, then you pull it out and rehook it just to get that nice, lofty puff to the part that otherwise might have gotten swallowed up and lost, throat style. That technique of hooking it, pulling it out, and rehooking it is a great technique. And I don't think I like this either, but I like this more. Again, your color green has way more bright colors in it, and mine is kind of a dark muddy green. So I'm less happy with mine, but I'm picturing the one that you have in your kit. It's a lot more springtimey. And yeah, and the only reason I don't have the same is because I used it all to make the kits. And I was very happy that there were kits selling, and I just couldn't see the benefit for myself of spending time dyeing more when I got a bit of a time thing going on. So you can see I'm right to the edge of that there. I don't want to crowd the orange, so I'm going to trim that. And I'm going to continue up here. Oop, wait a minute, it's actually in here. Now, you're never supposed to cross. We know that, right? You're definitely not supposed to cross. Oh, I have a little bit of orange there. I'm going to pull him up too. But sometimes when I've already hooked the area and I can feel a gap under it, I cross a little bit. I never cross in a way that I need to get there again and there's a wool strip in the way. But you can see that this part was already hooked and it's being rehooked. So I give a little cross if it just means going behind something, saving myself some time, and saving myself some more ratty looking tails sticking up, right? That looks better to me already. It's fairly nondescript, right? We don't exactly know what it is yet because I haven't finished articulating this whole shape. And it is a squiggle of line after all. So the squiggle of line might be a bad design motif. It might be something that I think to myself later, why did I even put in the squiggle of line? I thought it gave him a nice solid base to stand on, but it could be that it's not ideal. Oh, you know what? I can't do that. I was hooking the background. Did you see that? I got carried away and I started hooking the rest of it, and that's not where the green goes. So let me come over here. I might have to, I'm going to turn this again. I'm trying to keep my hands away from view, but I know you're probably looking down and working on your pieces too. Remember, if you're a beginner and you're hooking this exact pattern, you have a lot to think about color-wise, number one, and number two, you can rewind this video later and come back with me. Because even after I stop making decisions and doing, I'm going to pull that up as a tail, as a loop instead of a tail, because it was a bit of a thin piece at the end. Even after I stop being wishy-washy and making all these seat-of-the-pants decisions, I'm still going to hook a little bit faster than probably what is comfortable. And you can't expect as a beginner to hook at the same speed other people are hooking at, right? I'm not hooking particularly fast with this hook, I have to say. I guess my hands have gotten used to a different hook over time, and as a result, I'm a little less used to this one. I am hooking a little bit higher, even though this is wool strips. Why am I hooking a little bit higher? Well, because this is another filigree kind of a line, isn't it? It's this weird little sort of calligraphy flourish that I've got on the grass that just represents a line of grass. And it's very stylistic, right? It's not literal at all. But because it's just one small line of green that is going to appear in an otherwise field of orange, I'm pulling it up a little bit higher so it stands up. Not a lot higher, right? I do like to fool with height. I think it's fun to fool with height. I'm not a fan of the even crop pile. I like things to look a bit wild and woolly. Not as wild and woolly as that sheep at this moment, but I ran out a little bit there. Let me do one more little bit. I'm not going to go over to this side yet. I'm going to focus here because I still don't know in terms of how I'm feeling, how long I'm going to make it tonight. And I want to get some of everything in. So I'm going to focus at least on this part of it. We'll see how it goes. just coming around this here. Once I get going on a big piece, I'll chat a little bit more generally and take a break from concentrating on describing what I'm doing, because that does take a lot of brain power. I need another sip. Gayla reminded me I need another sip of that water. So let me see where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Now, I like that better. I like the contrast with those two colors better. It's looking very Irish, isn't it? With the orange and the green together. Of course, my green, again, is different than your green. Your green is really light green, like an electric spring green, with lots of yellow and pink in it. Mine is dark green with more green and more dark, 3 different kinds of green in it. So my green is very different than yours. I feel like my green is less pretty in conjunction with the orange ombre. So I'm not sure that I even like that green piece of grass. But I'm going to leave it there for the time being. And I'm going to work on some more orange stuff. And I'm going to chip away at the background for a while. I'm going to start under here. And I'm going to come up. Let me come up the leg, up between the legs right here. We'll do this first so that I can get this out of the way. And you're going to see I come right up to the sheep's body. That's maybe too close for comfort. Too close for comfort. All right. See, I'm still packing. Yeah, this is, many things that I do are do as I say, not as I do, right? Because this is just, that's too close. But I feel like I need, you see what I mean? You see the struggle right here? I think I might have to leave it right there. I think his legs are going to fill that in. My instinct to pack is so powerful that when I'm paying attention or I'm watching TV at the same time, I do a lot of packing. And I know better. But it's just one of those things. Get him a little bit out of the picture. So I just did one strand for between the legs. This is one leg. This is the other leg here. And I'm going to come, you know, let me start in here. Let me finish up this area. I might have to, I don't have, this is my small frame, and I don't have my frame protector on it, you know. Oh, you like the green Goretti? It's looking very Irish, but, you know, maybe when I have the other colors in there, that was the only thing about the purple was it didn't look quite so, nothing wrong with Irish, right? I got a lot of Irish in me, but, and Colleen's on, right? So it's definitely nothing wrong with Irish. I love the Irish. I love Ireland. But it's a very strong color palette for spring. I think it will all be modified and mellow out as I get more colors in there. That worked well. Did you see going around there like that? Now remember, I am sticking with the idea of very hit or miss style using the ombre. I'm not using the ombre as ombre going dark to light. It could be that you want to use it, you know, going darker from the border and lighter when you get to the sheep, to pop the sheep's body. That would be a great idea. That would work great. But I'm kind of doing it hit or miss because I just do this, kind of experiment in my brain with, well, what would happen if I did this? Would that be a problem, or would that be a weird kind of happy ending? You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't know until you try it. And I'm wondering, is this going to look super antique-y because of all the shades of orange? We will find out. And it will either be a caution, the cautionary tale, this whole video to you, if you're doing this kit and you're thinking, oh, I don't like the way that all the oranges keep changing, then you know, nope. If that's the case, then you do it hooking. I would suggest the dark side of the ombre on the outside to, right, the light going into the light closer to the sheep to make the sheep stand out. I'm still thinking, should I do that? But it's already 8:15. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And we'll see how it goes. My computer is telling me that issues are found. And it's always a scam. You know, it's always a scam. They want you to buy some kind of anti-whatever, anti-boob software. And, yeah, it's already built into the computer as far as I know. Coming up to the ear here, and I'm going to come right up under the ear. I don't know if you can see, but I'm right close to the ear. I'm still on the outside of the line, and I'm going to cut it because I don't want to get any closer to it. But I wanted that one little piece because it brings me right up to the line. Do you see that? I'm really persnickety with stuff like that. And just see how I came in a little bit here? I want to do more of that. And here, I want to do more of that because I don't want to make his body look like a big blimp, right? I want it to look like he has a bit, you know, he's very textured and he's very curly. I want to pop the curliness. For this moment, I'm back over here. Right, where am I over here? All right, there we go. Yeah. Kind of working upside down because I'm trying to be smart with the way the camera is, and I don't want to keep moving you. I think we got a good thing going with the position of the camera right now. So I'm back down over here, and I'm filling in this area so I can kiss it goodbye and move on. And then I'll get some good traction just doing background, and I won't have to think. So just to reiterate, I'm filling in here. I'm about to run out of a strip. I'm going to come up here. Oh, wait a minute. Where's that? Okay, that's ahead of me. And I'm going to fill in this open space. Now, sometimes I get to a place where I can't even pull the tail up anymore because I don't have enough wool left. And if that's the case, I just leave the tail underneath, right? I don't agonize too much, I'll tell you. I really don't. I'm much more of the don't agonize school of hooking. I figure one way or another it's going to work. And I'm pretty confident about, you know, what I can do. And I'm pretty confident about my problem solving. So I know that if something goes wrong, if I run out of something, if I don't like the way something looks, I might be pulling stuff up in future. I might be changing colors. I might be doing a little bit of outlining. There's lots of things that might happen. But I know that once I get going with something, I will be able to sort of conjure up in my head all my choices if I hit some kind of a wacky wall. And I know that I'll make a good choice based on what I like to see, in, you know, what colors I like. I know I'll make good decisions later. So while this is not, well, I'm actually liking the way the orange is looking. I'm going to keep going, but I'm doing the orange hit or miss as opposed to ombre, and that could go either way. But I have to say, you can see some of the colors lining up next to each other, and it does have a bit of a hit or miss feel, and I do really like it. And if I didn't, I'd figure something else out. Right? Because this is that kind of craft. You're not stuck with it, you know. You get what you get and you don't get upset. No. You get what you get and you look at it and you think this is not really what I was going for. And you know that you can make changes by just pulling bits and pieces out, localized parts out, not your whole thing, right? You see I'm being real careful to keep away from his ear again. All right. So I think I'm going to come sweeping up here, right? And starting up here, and I'm going to fill this whole area in. So my hand is down here right now, and I might move a little bit as I go. And remember, I was going to lift this up a hair just so I had a little more room on top of the K in the black for the sheep. I have the cursive going under there. I'm going to come shooting straight across here. So what I was working on last night and today, this is kind of a spoiler alert. I don't talk a lot about the Design Like book because I'm working on it now, but I feel comfortable talking about it in this setting, and I'm not showing designs and stuff for it, but my friend Dawn Collins hooked the image for the Thornton Burgess chapter, and that's the chapter I'm working on right now. And man, I have been loving reading this book I have on Thornton Burgess. It's his autobiography. He was, do you remember, he was the creator of the American Peter Rabbit. Now I am hooking straight, but my thing is not pulled exactly equal, so it looks like I'm not hooking straight, but I am hooking straight. My line might be a little bit off. I'll figure that out later. He was a creator of the American Peter Cottontail. He was called Peter Cottontail for a while, and then he was just called Peter Rabbit. And as it happened, Beatrix Potter was doing a character called Peter Rabbit in England, but he didn't know that. And Peter Rabbit just sounded like a good name, and there's like Jimmy Skunk and Jerry Otter and, you know, all these characters, Mother West Wind and her Merry Little Breezes, right? Do you remember this series? It was very, very, I think Mother West Wind was published in like 1905, something like that. But he was from Cape Cod, and that is my favorite place. And I chose to do him for the Design Like because he was a writer, not an illustrator, but famous American illustrator from is it New York? No, first Massachusetts, and then he moved to Brooklyn, called Harrison Cady, did all the illustration for the Thornton Burgess books. And so I ordered want you to keep in the frame here. I ordered Thornton Burgess's biography, which came out in 1960. Sorry, it's an autobiography. He died in 1965 at the age of 91. It was actually the year after his son died rather suddenly. But I mean, he was 91. His son was probably, in his 70s. Always sad, I'm sure, at any age to lose a child. Obviously, that goes without being said. But he died the next year. And his wife had died like 25 years earlier. It was his second wife, actually. And interestingly, the first thing, so he was, the book is all about, the autobiographies is, at least the first part of it, about growing up on Cape Cod. And he had all of these crazy jobs because of the time. It was the time in history, the late 19th century, where the Cape Cod Canal wasn't even cut yet. They were still talking about it. Because they had been talking about, George Washington was the first to say, you need to cut a canal here. It's way too much of a detour. See this little gap I'm dealing with right here? I'm making a decision on that. This is the kind of packing craziness that I do, but there's a gap there that's driving me nuts. I'm just going to problem solve by coming down here and cutting to make this not a full loop, but just a half, just to solve that problem. It's the kind of stupidness that really hangs me up, that little bit of orange. So the Cape Cod Canal was not even cut yet, and he lived in the town of Sandwich. Cute name, right? We always used to get a sandwich in Sandwich. And it was a town at that time that had 4 churches, but most of the town was Irish Catholic. And suddenly there was this wave of Italian laborers who came in with their shovels to cut the Cape Cod Canal, and they ended up giving up on it that time too. It would be the next time that it actually took. I think that was 1911 that they actually built. I'm not sure, but something like that. They actually built the canal. Anyway, he talks about life in Sandwich at that time, being a boy, and this is a world that I have no reference point for, no starting point. Because, he had crazy jobs. His dad died the year that he was born, and he lived with his mom in the grandfather's house. And the grandfather was one of these crazy old Yankees who was a super sweet guy, super loving grandfather, but he actually did the thing that my dad always threatened to do when I had a loose tooth. Do you know what I'm going to say? Tie a string around your tooth and tie the string to the doorknob and then kick the door shut. His granddad actually did that with all his loose teeth. And he also built tons of like swings for him out under the russet apple trees in the yard, and just idyllic kind of a life. But his mom was not super, super healthy. And when they moved into their own house, trying to make it work, her as a single mom, she made candy. And he would go kind of canvassing the town, especially at Christmas, and see who wanted to buy the candy, kind of like Girl Scouty, vibes. And just making decisions as I go here. Yeah, that looks all right. And he had about 1 million other weird, not weird, but to us now, very unusual jobs. Some of them dangerous, I guess it was just that time, right? So one of his jobs was, I guess at that time, from colonial days onward, and his family has direct lineage right back to Thomas Burgess, who settled in Sandwich, was one of the first settlers in 1660 something. So his lineage went right back. But since colonial days in Sandwich, they had a communal pasture. And it's kind of forward-thinking thing. So everybody in town who had an animal could put their animal in the pasture during the day, but it was up to them in the evening to go and get the animal and bring it home. Or, if you had someone who worked for you, send that person to go and get your animals and drive them back home. So this is, maybe in other parts of the country, this is like business as usual, but to me, this is like stuff I've never heard of before. So he talks about one time, because of course he becomes, as an older man, and one of the first conservationists, right? Like a naturalist, a conservationist, an animal activist, very, very early example of all of those things. And he was militant in his lifetime about being an animal activist. And part of it was because during the course of these crazy jobs that he had when he was younger, he saw a lot of bad stuff, and a lot of bad stuff happened. Coming up here with one more loop. I'm still on the same piece, so I feel like I'm doing good. I'm seeing if I can pull up the tail, and I really can't without packing a bit. So I'm just going to leave it under there because I feel like that's pretty tidy right there. And I'm going to keep shooting up this edge. So anyway, he was driving you know where this is going. This isn't going to be good, right? he was driving the cows home for a farmer who he worked for one night, and the train was fairly new, right? Spoiler alert, it's not a good story. And he got to the train crossing, right? And the thing was down because the train was coming. And they had like the arm down so that there was kind of the fence thing that went up. And the animals were all on one side of it. And he was kind of spacing out, right? He's like, I don't know, 8, 9 years old. And he's kind of spacing out, and he sees that one of the cows is going through the bushes onto the train track, like wandering away from the fencing, the barrier, right? And he goes to get her, and it's a bit too late, and she's standing on the train track, and she gets hit by the train. And this is one of these telling things in his life that really changed, like, along with some other horrific experiences like that, changed the course of his life. And he was so scared as a young boy when that happened. He was scared that the guy who owned the cow was going to be irate and make him pay for the cow. And him and his mom with the candy money did not have that kind of money. And he was scared, things, he was in shock because of what he saw too. He was very sensitive, right? And really loved animals. Although, like all boys then, he did a lot of trapping and hunting, and he got paid for muskrats and animals that he would trap, right? And he changed his feelings about that later, but at that time, all boys did it, and he did it too. But he did have this built-in kind of sensitivity that made it hard for him to process terrible stuff like this. So he was scared about the farmer, and he was scared about the train company. He was even scared that the train company was going to try to charge him and his mom for repairs to the train. And the train company completely wrote it off and said, these things happen. And he said he really misjudged the farmer because he didn't know him that well. And when he when he went and told the farmer what had happened, the guy spent a lot of time consoling him. And he said, you know what? It's okay. These things happen. It's okay. And he was more worried about Thornton himself and trying to comfort him because he was so upset. And the farmer ended up, he got the cow back, and he ended up making like steaks with it. And he asked if he could send the steaks over to Thornton and his mom. And Thornton was like, oh my God, no thank you. It's not a good memory. So they politely declined. This is starting to look a little Santa Fe in its coloring. I don't think I'm going to stick with that green in the end. But I do like the way the orange is coming up, very hit or miss. I might want a really stark color in there. I might go with the really light, this yarn in the end, because I'm just not sure about the green. I'm going to hold out, but I'm just not sure. Anyway, the autobiography was filled with anecdotes like that. And of course, it's an auto, so he wrote it himself, and he wrote about other crazy things that they did and contracts that he took with local men and stuff to deliver like 200 perch in one afternoon, and rigging like wheelbarrows with handmade tanks that would hold water in them long enough to transport the fish, and just crazy scenarios, difficult, really difficult. And he talks about, life was just different then, wasn't it? He talks about how school didn't start till October because of all the cranberry bogs in that part of the Cape. Sandwich has got loads of cranberry bogs. And how it was, and he says it, and this is like a quote in the book, he said, cranberry season was way more important than the 3 R's at that point in time. And school wasn't even offered. Everyone was down on the bogs, but this is so romantic to me. He said, cranberry season was so hard. Like, it was such hard work. It was so intense. It was a short time. Families would go down there and, from bog to bog and just pick cranberries. And it's very hard on the hands. So girls would wear gloves, but boys just didn't. And so boys would take shoemaker's wax and rub it like at the base of their fingers, right? And around their cuticles, because picking and stuff, it would just tear your fingers up. So it was still really hard work, but he said it was a very happy time of year because families were out, single people were out, everybody was out. And some of the bogs were in the woods, some were right on the shoreline, right along the ocean. Others were like more inland, more toward the dunes, but all different kinds of places to go to pick berries. The bogs are all over the place on the Cape. They still are. And he said there was such a thing that came up that was called cranberry gossip. And people on the Cape knew what that meant. And it referred to, all this stuff that would happen as a result of being out there for, this however many weeks the season lasted. I don't really know. and all the things that would happen during that time, because people were together. And although they were working side by side, and it kicked up a lot of romances, it kicked up a lot of friendships, it kicked up a lot of plans and evening dances. And it sounded like a really fun time of year. And I've never heard, I Googled the term cranberry gossip because he used it a couple times in the book. And it's not really there, or at least it didn't come up in the context that I was hoping to find it. And I thought, that's just so neat. What a neat title for a book, too, or song or poem or something. Just a very quaint time of life and time of year, moment in time, right? The thing I think I like the most, and as you can see, as far as hooking goes, it is looking very Santa Fe, the oranges. So if you have this kit, I'm not sure, I think it's my dark plaid, which is different than yours, and the combo with this green. It's reminding me of the Mexican restaurant where we go, right? That I love the food, but this is what the decor looks like. So be careful if this is not what you want. Think about using your orange as an ombre shade, going from light to dark, dark to light, even bottom light to dark, going up or down, right? It doesn't have to be going in because that's quite complicated. You can have it going like this or going side to side, light to dark. But what I'm doing is hit or miss style with the orange ombre, and it is coming out like this. So very hit or miss. I'm probably going to love it in the end. I think I just need a lighter color with more contrast in place there. I might have been better off with the purple, actually, because although it's very similar tonal value, which is absolutely true, Colleen, you're absolutely right about that. Gray for the feet, Gayla, I agree. I really agree. Yeah, I'm not sure on that green. Let me catch up on these comments. Looks just like a sheep's coat. Yeah, this wool is really perfect for the coat. Texture-wise, it is really luscious. Kim, I'm so curious to see how you do the fine lines of the face. I always have difficulties with the fine lines. I'll go down, after I'm done with this little edge here, I'll run down and get the gray, and I'll work this. I'm going to trim my gray pieces down, and I'm going to do a little dot of color for the eyes. So I'm going to do the best I can with that too. It is a small area, and a few people bought this pattern in the larger size, right? I couldn't hook the larger size here, but it is definitely hard to hook something this scale like this, right? You know, I could even, I'm just thinking like crazy now, I could even use this color for the face. Let me think on that while we finish this corner up. So, yeah, I'm just loving this book. And the thing that I love the best, and maybe some of you can relate to this, all living in different places, right? Because it's not just that it's from another time. I think it also is a regional kind of thing. And Connecticut is quite busy, right? Even the quiet parts at this moment in time. But the thing he said he missed the most, Thornton Burgess, in this autobiography, from remembering back to his boyhood in modern times, which again, this thing was written in 1960, he said the thing he missed the most was the bells, right? And that just completely got me, because he said, you know, in those days, there were 4 churches in the town. They all rang for Sunday service, right? So they would all ring, and the service was at the same time. So for people to know it was time to come to church, the service was starting. They rang, the church bells also rang if there was like a problem, like an emergency, like if an old woman wandered into the woods or was lost, the church bells would ring as an alarm. And everybody, it was a way of summoning people. Everybody knew, get over near the green, figure out what the news is, and see how you can help. So they rang for occasions like that. They rang if there was a fire in the woods. They rang if there was any kind of peril to the town. They rang, like, for example, when President Garfield died. They rang for momentous occasions because there were not other options. So the bells rang a lot. And it wasn't always scary, sad things, right? It was coming to service. And he said, you know, the high school bell rang at a certain time of the day to let you know you were about to be marked tardy, right? So you better get a move on. It rang again when it was time to go home. In Sandwich, remember, have you heard of Sandwich Glass, the famous glass works? That was where most people were employed at that time. So the Sandwich Glass Works bell was a different bell, and that rang to let people know it was time to come to work. And then it rang when it was lunchtime, and it rang when it was time to go home at the end of the day. And then there were all the handbells in town, he said, the different, the elementary school, you know, the one-room schoolhouse. The teacher had a regular handbell. He said in those days, you know, some people had doorbells, but they were still bells, right? They weren't like electric bells yet. So they were still bells. There was all kinds of bells constantly in the air. And in winter, of course, sleigh bells, right? Like the jingling of sleigh bells, that very merry sound of people coming and going for transportation as they were gliding over the snow, all of the sound of bells. And he said it occurred to him as an old man, because he ended up moving to Massachusetts and he went to college in Springfield and he ended up settling there, but coming back to the Cape very often. He said as an older man, he realized how much he missed the sound of all those bells and just that life of being alerted with the noise of the bells. And I just thought, God, that's such a moment in time. I've heard church bells ring, of course, and there's a church right next to me here, St. Rita's in Hamden, and they've got I don't want to say fake church bells, but it's like they're not real bells, but it's still better than nothing in my mind. I love hearing them ring, but they ring for church services, for funerals, things like that. But they don't ring to tell you the hour. It's not a thing anymore that you would set your clock by it because for example, at 1 o'clock, the bells are going to ring. And I just think, God, that just sounds so beautiful. And he said, you don't know what I mean. I'm thinking of some of his quotes and stuff. He said, you don't know what I mean unless, you have spent some time sitting outside in the dusky light, listening to the wood thrush or these different birds and hearing the bells ring in the background. He said, if you've ever had anything like that, then you know what I mean, and what a loss it is to modern times that we don't have stuff like this anymore. And again, 1960, but I have really been enjoying reading the book because it's a time that I was born in 72. So it was before my time too. And what he's talking about is way before. He's talking about the late 19th, early 20th century, but he brings up things that are just so romantic to somebody like me who has no starting point. And just really, really, really loving the book. It's called Now I Remember. And the first half of the book is about, boyhood and nostalgia, but then it goes into his career. So most of the book is about how his career as a writer took off and Peter Rabbit and all the characters and how he got more and more into his kind of environmental crusade, saving the wetlands, saving the swamplands, saving all these, saving the seashore areas, all these places where both nautical creatures and woodland creatures needed to be a bit safer, right, with the encroaching modern times and houses and all that stuff coming in real close to their habitats. I'm kind of liking the way it's turning out now. I have to say, I still don't like the green personally, but I'm feeling more at peace with this. I'm just gonna drag this up here and then I'm gonna fill in this area and then I'll run down for the gray and see how far we get. Talking about stuff like this, and I know it's hard to think of these things in the moment, and you might be busy with your hooking too or your projects, but if you ever think of books like this, please recommend them or send a message or something, because I just love these kinds of books that bring you back to a different time, particularly nonfiction, and and just you feel like you're time traveling when you read them. I just enjoy that so much, and yeah. I'm really loving that book. But putting together, hang on, see, I'm not a big fan of monk's cloth either, I have to say. I think that's been coming out lately. And it's not a good combo with this particular hook. And the hook is big, like it's a big hook. But yeah, it wants to rip right through the monk's cloth. I think I'll just come, because I know I probably won't do all this because I'm feeling better, but I'm not feeling great. I'm just going to stop here on this side because I want to do a little bit of everything, and I'm going to do some letters for sure too. I just want to come down, well, let me fill this in first. I want to come down around his head a little bit to make him look less like a poodle and more like a sheep. Yeah, that whole Thornton Burgess thing is like so nostalgic for me because we're about to go to the Cape on Thursday, and when I used to go when I was younger, my dad loved it. Of course, my dad's passed away years ago, but he used to love it, and we all loved it. We all vacationed together always, even when I was a grown-up. I just love vacationing there. He's just not with us anymore, but in those days, the Thornton Burgess house, beautiful house on the mill pond right in the center of town, was open to the public, and it was set up as a museum of Thornton Burgess. And you went inside, and I was really little then. They had a bunch of dioramas set up that were like in tiny, like dollhouse scaled, uh, well, dollhouses. They had houses set up that were um, set up like the different sort of, I don't want to say layers, but dens of the different animals, right? So everything to scale, everything quite small. It depicted the town of Sandwich, so you could really recognize where you were and where you were next to the mill pond and everything. And all these little animals were set up like little statues, little vignettes of the stories, and it was just such a fun thing to go in there. It's a private house now, and nothing wrong with that, right? It probably wasn't the kind of museum they could keep up forever. It's probably amazing that it lasted for as long as it did, because it lasted for a long time. But one day we went, and the sign wasn't outside anymore, and you could just tell by the look of it that it was a private residence. Nothing wrong with it, but it wasn't there anymore. And I checked online for it, and it didn't come up. What came up was the jam kitchen, because with the whole conservation thing, the jam kitchen is still there. They'd still do a lot of work with the wetlands and the swamplands and all that stuff, and they still do a lot of his environmental work, right? That's still really, really present, and particularly on the Cape, right? Because they still celebrate him as a person and his legacy. But they have a jam kitchen, and I'm really hoping that this is the year that I can go to the jam kitchen. The problem is the jam kitchen's usually open on Saturdays. This sounds so awful, because I'd love to go and make some jam, and I'd love to bring Joss, my daughter, but it seems to historically be open on Saturdays. And the thing with that is I'm only there for a few Saturdays, for 2 Saturdays on vacation, well, 3. And that's the big yard sale and flea market day, and those rugs are not going to buy themselves laying in the wet grass. So it's always a bit of a struggle for me, but at least if you're headed to the Cape at some point, check out the Thornton Burgess, I don't even know what they call it, maybe pantry, because they do have jams and stuff that they make and sell there, different flavors. And other little wares, and I haven't been in there yet. I'm definitely going to at least go to the shop. And, there's a little gift shop there, and I'm curious to see what people make and sell, and it just seems like a lot of fun. I would much rather have the house be there for my kids. And it is there, but we just can't go inside. I wonder what happened to those dioramas. I should check and see if they're inside the little jam kitchen place, because it just breaks my heart to think that they're just like in some weird attic somewhere, or sold at a flea market and busted up or damaged or not cared for, because they were like excruciating detail in these little dioramas. They were like outdoor scenes with little houses and stuff, but it was like tiny, tiny, tiny scale. Really fun. And the mill pond is right next to it, still is. And I don't have a feel at all anymore for whether you're allowed to go to the pond, because that's where my dad used to sit, right on one of the benches at the pond, and feed the ducks. And that was the first place I got bitten by ducks. I pretty much got bitten by the ducks and the geese every year, feeding them, which always made him laugh. He always laughed when people got hurt, and I have to admit I kind of inherited that. But not if they're hurt badly, obviously, but if they're just hurt a little bit, like a little bit of a snap from a duck, I would first say, "Are you okay?" I hope that I would anyway, and then maybe laugh secretly and quietly inside the car for a few minutes. But that was just part of our routine, and it was so much fun. So many pictures of him sitting on the park bench at the duck pond. All right, let me do verdict on this side. Yeah, I quite like how that looks, actually. Let me pull the camera back a little bit. Kind of okay with that. It still reminds me of can't even remember the name of the Mexican restaurant with Cantina something. It does. It really reminds me of that. I don't think I can abide the green. But I'm gonna hold on that. It's just the colors. Again, your colors are different than mine. Nobody has these colors but me, and I don't like these colors. I like the colors that I gave in the kits more. I'm wondering if I could have done pink. No, that's too close too. I'm wondering if the introduction of the pinks in the corner is going to help with this feeling of. Can I have the extra large plate of burritos with a margarita and salt on the rim? If it's going to help with that feel. Because while there's absolutely nothing wrong with this color palette, or with burritos or enchiladas or any of that, I don't know that that's the look I was going for. And I think it's really my fault, the combo, and also handling this ombre orange as a hit or miss. and not as a ombre. I do like it as a hit or miss, I have to say. I think I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to run downstairs. I'm going to come back to you for a second. I'm going to run downstairs, and I'm going to, oh, wait a minute. See what I got going there? I moved this light way up. Hey! Now that is not the right place for that either. You can see in the last 2 hours it got really dark. I'm going to run downstairs, and I'm going to get some water, get my gray, and let me see if I can get this face in. I'm going to hook some of the lettering too. I'll leave you here with this guy. Let me do it like this. And there he is. Huh. I'm looking at him too. I really hate the green. I really hate the green. I'm going to hold. Hey, Kara, good to see you. Kara, you sent some beautiful stuff for a gallery night this week. That was some beautiful stuff. Hey, listen, I will be right back. Let me run and get the gray, and let's work on this little face before he can't breathe anymore, right? I'll be right back. Stomping back along. It's a thundering hippo coming up along the hall. All right, so I only found a tiny bit of the gray, which is going to be a problem because I think I kitted most of my supplies. I think this small bit of gray that I have is actually going to be enough for the face. So let's see what we end up with. I'm going to cut it. This is the color gray. I'm going to cut it with my little cutter, and I end up with these strips, but I might cut them smaller. I might cut them in half. These are number 6, like what you've got. So, and then I have a little bit of white. Whew, feeling winded just coming up the stairs. That is not good, is it? That's probably more white than I could ever use with this project. Let me cut that too. And let's work on this face a little bit. Let's see what we can do with this. Oops, sorry. Huh. Oh, you like it too, Cats Gallery? You like the green? Maybe I'm being too hard on the green. This isn't my color palette. I think that's what it is. And I'm not, oh boy, I hope I'm not sick. I'm not that, oh, I forgot about his legs. I might really need more gray. I'm thinking about this now because you all have a lot of gray in your packets, but I don't. I sent out all of my gray to make those kits. And I'm thinking, should I just use the light in the face? I'm going to start with the gray at least, because if you've got the gray, you might want to see how to do the details. I'm going to want to put in the little nose. Let me show you here. The little mouth and nose. See these little details? And I've got the eyes. I don't know that I'm going to do the whites of the eyes and everything. I might just do a dit dot. We'll see how it goes. I always put detail in case you do it differently than me, right? So you might do it just the way I'm doing it. Uh-oh. One of the tails sticking up there. Or you might do it completely differently. And if you do it differently, there's nothing wrong with that. Oh my gosh, Buttons the dog is here. Here, come here. You want to come up for, nope. You want to come up for a second and say hi? No, he doesn't. I pulled 4 ticks off of him the other day. Can tell it's summer. Hey, Buttons. Hey, Buttons. Yeah, let me give it a shot. Let me give it a shot. Let me start. I'm just afraid I'm going to run out because I don't have, it's my own fault. I don't have any more gray. And I forgot I had to do the feet too. Hang on while I think this through. I'm still half thinking about making him all black. Huh. Because now I got a little bit more in. Let me hook one of his legs in gray anyway. We do something while I think. I don't know. Yeah, I thought I had a ton more gray down there. I should have brought some more from work. Because I had a different color gray there that I could bring. I just thought I had a lot more left over, but I must have kitted it all up. You know, I don't even know. I don't think I like that. I mean, his leg isn't complete, but I don't think I like that. I see a real problem with having done it in hit or miss, right? Leave it to me to do this, right? Because I'm just thinking, I created a lot of busyness. So, yes, I'm not overly happy with him. Definitely not happy with that leg. So, I'm going to say if you have this at home and you have it kitted this way, you're going to run into the same problems I'm running into now. So, think about what you mean to do. Oh, thanks, Whitney. Sometimes peppermints help. You know, you're right. Peppermints would definitely help, as well as with heartburn. You know, I could take some Tums and stuff too. I just love the flavor of those. That always helps because they're like little candies. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to stay on for a while longer until I figure this out, and I'm going to hook the hard part under here, right? I'm going to hook this too. So, all right, let's see. I'm still thinking because my instinct was to make him all black. And if I do that, I do need some definition in the little nose. I'm going to go out on a limb, as I've already done, as you can see, right? I did all this my way, and now I don't like it, right? This is why I hardly ever finish anything, because I do this. It's not wrong, right? I'm not saying it's wrong. It just makes it last a while when I keep changing my mind. This is part of the creating process, though, isn't it? You do change your mind 100 times, and that's why I love this craft. Can't really do this with other stuff. When I was a quilter and I kept changing my mind, you know, you end up with some raggy-looking pieces. I'm coming to this material, right? Not this one, not the bright one, but this lighter one. I'm going to fool with this for a minute and see what I can do with this, because I still like this against the orange. Let me see if this could solve my problems. Now, it's a color changer, so it might not be good. It might be too light. Of course, if I had worked with the ombre as an ombre, and I'd gone, for example, from dark to light, and this was against the dark part, then this would be really popping. And if anybody's doing this kit and you're doing it in a different color scheme than me, and you're going, oh, I love it the way that I'm doing it, let me know. Because I'm definitely open for, I know that doesn't look really good on camera, but I think it looks quite good in real life. I just still am, I'm going to leave it for the time being. I'm still really obsessing about the possibility of doing all black. That's still, I said it at the beginning, and it must be a thing for me because I keep saying it, right? So it means something, the fact that I keep coming back to having the sheep be black. If the sheep is black, his face does need a lot more definition. So what I'm going to do right now is, this is what I'm going to do. Just because I have to see this through and make a decision for myself, I quite like the color I've got here. It doesn't have incredible pop, but it has a lot more pop than it looks like on the camera that I'm looking at, of what you're seeing. It has a lot more pop than that, and it is color changing. Just give me a minute to fool here, because Mama's got to see through this idea. Still thinking about this. And this is color changing, so it might not be strong enough. to hold its color. It might be not be strong enough, although it does seem to be working against the orange. You know, when you start a project, if you're a beginner, when you start a project and you just have a little bit of each color in, you're not going to know. You're not going to know until you get a little more information, and you don't get the information until you fill in a little bit. It's just the way that it is. You have to kind of hang tight, give yourself the classic hot minute, right? And in doing so, you add more colors, you get more information, and you're able to make a better decision. And it's just the way that it is. Just struggling with this one loop because I feel like I want the leg to be the right shape. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that, I have to say. And I'll probably change my mind because I know that's not what I meant to do. Just seeing where I can pull up this tail. I'm going to pull it up a little bit higher in the leg because the legs are supposed to taper down, right, like 1950s furniture. Boy, while I was downstairs, I should have grabbed a different hook because this hook is really not good with monk's cloth. I might have to get a different hook. This is like, particularly with the yarn, is going to drive me nuts. So let's see. Just pull in a couple loops up here to fatten up the leg at the top. It's kind of like leg of mutton leg, right? Yeah, that looks a bit better. You know, I'm going to cut my tail underneath because now I'm happy with the shape. These are some shapely legs. I'm not sure I'm going to stick with this, but for the moment, I'm happy with that. You know what I'm thinking now? If I like the way that looks, I might like the way that looks in the face. Let me give it a try. Let me give it a try. I'm going to try this yarn. You have this yarn too, and yours is a little more of a flesh color than mine. I've got the purple. Mine is a little bit more toward purple. Yours has got a little bit more of a neutral flavor to it, and I think that's going to be helpful. I'm just coming up and around here. I'm doing the ears, and I might pull the whole thing out, as you do, but I'm just getting a feel for whether I like this. Hang on, I'm looking for my scissors. There they are. They're right there. Oh my gosh, Mama. Can't believe that children haven't come upstairs yet. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I'm at home. I'm like a sitting duck up here. They haven't come upstairs yet to rattle things up. Oh, but you know what I just thought? Looking at this color and thinking that would be good for the interior of the ear rather than the whole face. Now I'm not sure. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to plug in a little bit of color. I'm going to plug in an eyeball as a placeholder. And to do that, I'm going to pull a loop up from the back. I'm naughty. I don't have a tail there. I just have one loop coming up, right? Super naughty. This is a rule breaker right here. My green is color changing as your green is color changing. So be careful if you're using green for the eyes. Try to pull up two like colors. Otherwise, they might not read as eyes, right? Right. So I got two loops up for the eyes. Those are placeholders for me right now. I'm making decisions as I go. As you know, I'm seat of the pantsing it. Oh, I just got another idea. I'm thinking if I do end up, I'm going to hook a little more of this, right? The lighter yarn, even though it's color changing, because I'm thinking, what if I did that? And then I pulled out this purple. What if I did the purple as the accent? I'm probably getting too colorful. I'm getting way away from the color plan and what is traditional. This is not how I kitted it. If you rip it, call it frogging. Absolutely. You know, we have been joking about that all week over here. That was like the best joke I've heard in forever. Can we do that? Is it okay if we do that from now on? If we nab that amazing joke and say, like, when you rip something out, you do ribbit, like rip it, and then you just say, oh, I frogged that right out. This is going to be part, I'm going to adopt this as part of the language. I loved it. I loved that. I loved that. Kind of loving the air the way that it's looking too. And you can do this with your yarn too. If this is what you choose, if you want to do the gray, you've got enough gray to do this. I left myself with not enough gray. So I have a different problem than you. Let me just see this through because curious minds gots to know. I love that. I love that, Rip It. And you know what I'm doing here on the edge of the face? I'm trying to get a nice line. Ooh, I just had another idea. Okay, wait a minute. Let me define the face first. Ideas come while I hook. This is what always happens. I might run down and get the other stupid hook. I was just down there and I just went by the table. I'm lazy because I'm not feeling great, you know. And you know what I'm doing? I'm digging way in there because I'm doing my packing thing again. I need to stop that. It looks like his face is not filled out enough, but when I fill in here, right, it's going to go right the way around. Now you see how I have to be careful to hook high enough here because I hooked lower with the black. And you see how I got there? It's not making a good shape around the chin. You see that? Like right here, it's just not looking right. So I'm going to ribbit. I'm going to frog. I'm going to frog that. And I'm going to come back here, get one more stitch in here because I feel like the reason I wasn't getting a good line around the chin was because I needed one more stitch in there. So while I am trying not to pack enough to really fill out the shape of the face. At least on the outside. Let me see how this goes. This is just an idea. Hooking a little bit higher because it's yarn. So if you have this kit, I'll just say it one more time, the intended color for the face is your gray. And if your gray is too thick to get this done, depending on what size black sheep you've got, you can cut your grays in half, right? And that will work great. I'm just experimenting with different colors. I gots to be me, but you gots to be you. And if you like it the more traditional way, he's meant to be black with the gray face, and you have tons of gray. So you have more than enough gray to do that, and the legs. I didn't realize I didn't have any gray, and sometimes it's good for me to hit these problems live because it forces me. I don't want to accidentally undo the curls he's already got. Man, does he look like a mutant right now? Just for a minute, though. He's only a mutant for a minute. That sounds like the name of a rock band. Mutant for a minute. Yeah, I can't do anything normal. I guess that's it's been a theme in my life. I don't know how many times the nun said to me growing up, be normal. Like it was like a tagline. So I'm actually really liking this. I really am kind of liking this. So I do want to create, I don't have to create that definition in the nose. I don't have to at this size. In the larger size sheep, that would be no problem. This size, it could be a problem because he's really small. And if it is a problem, I'm going to cut and run and just do the face this color. But let me keep going for the time being. Kim, I am going to put some detail in. And I'm probably going to do it by cutting the yarn in half. Sorry, cutting this. Well, I might unply the yarn actually because it might be too thick to get any detail at this size. If you've got the, this was available as a larger kit too and as a larger pattern. And some people are doing the pattern with your own materials. If that's the case, you know, just grab materials that make sense, right? And if your materials don't make sense, if they're too thick, then you have to either cut them in half. You know what's happening right now is I'm pulling up the green eyeball. So I got to be careful about that. That's the thing about leaving your tail in, isn't it? That's the thing. Oh, you scared me, Ted. You scared me so much, you little monster. You want to say hi?
Yeah, put the camera to me.
Don't do anything weird. Nothing weird.
I know. I'm so big you can't even fit me in the camera.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're growing up to be a big boy. You my sweetheart, though. You my sweetheart. All right, we'll let this run its course for a second. Yeah, you excited to go to Cape Cod, hon?
Yeah, Cape Cod's gonna be great.
Best thing in the world, huh?
Yeah.
All right. You almost done? Cat's Gallery said hi to you.
Hey,
Cat's Gallery.
Cat's Gallery?
I think you're going to get a lot of highs. Enjoyed the company of Hooking Together. But yes, I hear you, Anne. I hear you. I'm going to have to turn them off.
Bye, guys.
Because they'll never be able to stop. Bye, sweetie. I love you.
Love you, too.
See you in a little while. All right, so I'm going to keep away from those eyes. Let me come a little bit closer again. That Teddy, man, he is such a sweetie. I'm debating right now whether, first of all, I'm looking at what I got, right? You got to keep taking stock. I'm going to want to fill this out, right? Because I want that to be the shape of the drawing, because I did pack around it. Shame on me. And I don't think I want whites in the eyes. I think I like the eyes like that. I'm even debating, I think I am going to. I think that the eyes are too close together. This is the way that I drew them, but I want them a little bit further apart. So let's see how that looks. I mean, it might be look like really wrong. And you know what I think I'm going to do, so I don't run into the same, I'm going to not be naughty, and I'm going to do tail, loop, tail, so that I don't accidentally pull them out some more. Let me see how that ends up looking. Let me trim this down a little bit. I just feel like even when you do tail, loop, tail, it's still, and you can put one of the tails like, I didn't have to do it like that. For example, you pull the tail out. You could do, hang on, tail, right, loop, and then if I want to change I could leave the other tail down, or for example, I could pull the tail on top instead of the side. So instead of getting like a run sideways of color, I get more of a circle, right? Because it's like loop, tail, tail. That maybe looks a little bit better. I just kind of I like the eye over to the side more. Yeah, I definitely do. This one, let me fool with this one too. Of course, I won't really know until I have more information, which means more stitches in. So I'm going to do the same pattern of eyeball, right? Tail, but I'm going to do it in reverse. Loop, and then I'm going to bury the other tail on top. And it might be that I change the eyes again. This is a tiny amount of fabric I'm using. This is wool strips, the eyes, right? This is my green. And I was careful to choose two colors that were like each other so that, oops, oh, I pulled the loop out. Did you see that? Ah, Deanna. Let's try again. Tail. I still am kind of doing it upside down, and it is a little bit tricky. I know I can do this though. And I'm pulling the tail on top. All right, let's see. I'm gonna hook around that. It might be that the eyeballs are too low. Let's see how it goes. I don't think I'm gonna know until I get in there more. You know what else I want to do? Being a bit scattered, I've got the darker purple now, and I want to put a little definition into the ear. Let me just get some definition in here. Doing a bit of the dental pick thing there to get in between. Let me see if I can just run a little line, you know, because I think that could look real cute. If it's like a little bit of the inner ear, I might not have given myself enough room. It's usually pretty easy to go in between the loops with yarn. I know you probably can't see that with the way my lights are, but I can really see that. I'm really liking that too. I'll hold it closer up to you in a minute. That maybe looks too much like a flower in the ear. Let me see. I'll pull some of these loops up. Remember, keep your loops a little bit higher with the yarn for more definition. And maybe I'll do one more down the tip of the ear. I'll try to hold it up and see if you can see that better, because it is getting dark. Let me see. Searching for the scissors again. You know, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to clip under, break the rule again. Now, don't look at his face because it's not done yet. But you see how I did a little bit of detail in the ear? You see how some of it's darker in there? Didn't really do a line. I kind of did around, you know, like the way the drawing was. So it might be too much, but let's see how it goes. In the meantime, let's figure out the face, because it looks like like his face is deflating. He's both being smothered and his face is deflating. He's having a tough time. Let's pop his face a little bit better, because once his face is popped, he's going to look grand. And I'm going to come back. See, I haven't wound this yarn either. I was really in a tailspin today. Again, with vacation stuff, trying to get stuff in order. I'm so torn. I'm going to... I'm just debating, because I don't think I want the definition of this in there. I think I just want, you know what I'm going to do again? I'm going to do this. Let me try this. I've got my dark purple again. And of course, yarn is going to be easier to do the detail with because it's thinner. But if you have your gray and you're doing detail with your gray, right, the intended color, be cutting your gray in half like this and be hooking with, but you see a girl sheep, Sharon. You know, that's a great point. I think I see a girl sheep too. I think once her face is done, and she does still seem out of focus incredibly, I think she's going to be a pretty girl. Oh, that's way more in focus. I'm just showing this, right? If you, I'll do this for the mouth. Let's see how this goes with the mouth. I'm just cutting my gray in half, right? And I don't have good scissors. I've got my hooking scissors because pieces like this, much smaller, they're going to be easier for me to work with in the detailed areas. So I normally would want to get a little bit further with this in terms of hooking around it. But for right now, I'm going to hook the shape of the nose really high. It might be that I have to pull it out and do it again. I need to hook it high because I need it to be high enough, a small little piece like this, to compete with the loops around it. So I'm going to hook a little line across like this. I'm going to do, if you've got the same size pattern as me, I'm doing, oh shoot, I pulled it up again. Dang it. I'm doing tail, loop, loop, tail, right? So I'm making 2 loops in the middle for like the little sort of nostrils, and then I'm bringing the tail up on this side. Let's see if I can squeeze those in. No, I'm going to go down and get that hook before I throw this one across the room. I might throw that one across the room just for fun. Hold on. I'm going to run out down and get the other hook. That is driving me bananas. The whole house smells like farts. All right. Kids, man. All right, so tail, loop, loop. Okay, wait a minute. Got the little heritage hook going here. Yeah, it is fiddly. I don't think I'm going to get the second tail up. I don't think I'm going to get the second. See how I have 2 little loops right here? Gosh, it seems like it's out of focus again. Come on, you. There we go. No unsheared, no unsheathed. Let's see. 2 little guys. All right. I'm doing this in reverse. My brain's going, what happened? All right. You know what? That second, let me get rid of that second loop because I feel like it was crooked. Careful with your details with stuff like this, just because with such small details, it's meant to provide contrast, right? It's supposed to be the little mouth coming down here. I did 2 loops here, and now I'm going to attempt to do a loop here, and I'm twisting. I don't think my piece is big enough. Well, it came up as a tail. Let me see if this will work. Right, remember, you've got a lot more gray than me, so you're not going to have this particular struggle. And come up here and try to run this little line of gray to make the mouth. Now, this is always fiddly. Any face that you do is fiddly. This is very, very simple compared to a lot of the faces. Is this going to be, oh man, am I going off monk's cloth? I've got a much smaller hook here, but there we go. Now, you see what I mean? I've got like a little line across. Come back in focus, you stinker. You know, there's so much light here. Why doesn't it come into focus better? There we go. Right, looks like a pig's breakfast. But wait, it's not going to look like a pig's breakfast for long. You trim that down. What it needs, and I'm going to do the rest of the trimming underneath because that's just what I meant to do. I'm going to leave it at that right now because what it needs is for me to fill the face out. The question is going to be, I need to keep, with something as fine and filigree as this, right? This little snout with this little face, I'm not going to leave any tails up of my yarn. That's number one. And I'm definitely going to break the rule intentionally and not leave the tails up because I really need it to fill in exactly the way I plan it. And I can't have any extra pieces like a ratty tail in the mix. That's just how I feel. Now that little piece there needs to get moved over, so I'm going to force a loop next to it. Right? So far, I'm very happy with what I did so far. I think I'm crossing underneath. Is she crossing underneath? Yes, she's crossing underneath. That's what I want to do. Right? So I filled out around the snout this little kind of T, right? In the drawing, there's a little T for the nose and the lips like this. That's what I meant to do. Now, if I wanted the face down here to look different, I could be filling it out even more. I want this cheek to be a bit more puffy. So wherever you want more body in the face, right? Because I don't want deflate face, I'm going to force more loops in, right? I'm going to pack in places like this for sure, because my adding these loops is creating the definition, the personality in the face, the actual lines of the face. So I might have to pull out many times. So far, so good here, right? And this is really washed out. Let me fool with the light again. It's really washed out compared to what it's really not as washed out as it looks. Let me play with maybe that's better, a little bit better. Because the gray for me is really standing out. And this purple isn't ideal. But like I said, I didn't have gray. I'm not minding it, though. I have to say I'm not minding it. I'm coming up here to my eyes, right? Because I kind of improvised the eyes, and I was making decisions as I went with eyeballs. And what I do with the loops is going to dictate how this little face falls. Now, gosh, it's driving me nuts that it keeps going out of focus. I'm going to have to look for another camera that is more reliable. I'll bring it in closer in a second, but that's driving me nuts for now. Yeah, I guess when I move my hand, it does sometimes want to go out of focus. I'm going to keep you up high for a minute. I don't know about these eyes either. I don't think I like the eyes. I'm going to take the eyes out. Ribbit. Hey, I'm frogging. Watch me frog. You know, I tried the green eyes. I like the idea of the green eyes. And now that the green eyes are in, I'm not a big fan of the green eyes. So you know what I'm going to do? We got a different problem now, right? We got major eyesight loss here. He's seeing worse than I'm seeing. I didn't even think that was possible. Put the wrong light on. Sorry about that. Let me turn the light up again. So there's some eyeball problems in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece of my black again, and I am definitely going to untwine it here. So I'm going to unravel it. It's a 2-ply job. I only want 1 ply for this, so I'm just going to cut a little piece of 1 ply. Look, you could even unply it again. Ooh, because that was 1 ply. I could unply it again. But you know what? I think one ply is going to be right. So I'm not using the whole thickness. I've just got 1 ply. I unraveled that into 2 pieces. And you can unravel it further if you want to. I just figured that out. Now, I'm not going to do tails with this because we know how fluffy and lofty this yarn is. Yeah, I feel like that shows better. I might even need a bigger piece of yarn. Let's see. I'm going to leave it in there for a second, and I've got 2 tails working right in this area. So I'm going to hook around here and try to define the eye and see if I can get the eye. I want it looking like a little button. I want it looking like a little cute eyeball. So again, the loops that I do around it are going to dictate the shape of it. If I accommodate it, if I give it room, if I crowd it, obviously the eye is going to get smaller. I'm going to want to, I like what I did around the eye, but you see how the eye did get smaller. So what I'm going to want to do is take the eye out. Right? I'm going to put that in last. And this is what happens to that yarn when you do that, so be careful with it. You can get it nice again by just doing one of these, right? Doing some work on it with your hand. That's going to work. But I'm going to leave the eyes blank for a minute. And I even think I want the eye over here. No, maybe that's too far. Is that a good place? No, I feel like I want it right here. But maybe lower. That's where I want the eye. That's where I want the eye. So I'm going to pull out, see what I mean? As you go along, you have to figure it out as you go along. That really is the only way. With something like a face, whether it's a human face or an animal face or whatever, even if it's done in a very graphic manner, until you get going with, oh, you can see I'm pulling up some of that black in the back. So I just had to pull some of that off because that's putting a cast on it. Just that little bit from pulling it out is putting a real cast of black on it. I could even use the black to pop the little nose design too. I might do that in a minute. Now let me decide where I want. This eye's going to go here. So I think I like this eye. Yeah, right there. Okay, right there. Right. No, maybe right there. Right there. Okay. So let me plan around that. Let me fill in around that. You know what? I have a purple sheep going here, and I have to say I like this. I'm very happy with this. I really do like this. So let me pull up the last piece. I am not leaving my tails on top just because I don't want any rattiness happening. This, I happen to do this, right? This is just, it happened. I like that shape. And remember right here, there's a gap as it comes down here, right? There's a gap in here for the background from the ear, the pointy ear to the slope of the back. That's a gap. Now, let me get in there with the black, right? And I'm going to twist it up real good because it's a little bit beaten up. Let me get to where I wanted the eyeballs to be. Where did I want this eyeball? Here. Pull up a piece. Might be that I do want the full piece. I think I do. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to double it up now. So basically the full size again because I feel like it looked too squinty. Okay. I like that. I like that. I'm leaving the tail underneath, and I'm going to take another little bit because I cut it in half. So I'm just going to fold it back. I'm going to use it as a whole piece again. It's just about the expression. You know, you might do it and say, oh, I liked it with the squinty eye better, or I liked it with the eyes off to the other side better. You know, you have to do it the way that you're like in love with it. For us, it is starting to look like a girl for me too, I have to say, Sharon. You have to do it the way you like it, and you have to make the eyes the way that you like it, right? We each have to have it. Yeah, see, I really like that. I really like that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm cutting it in the back because I don't want extra material. I'm going to make this even smaller. So I've got a half here, and I'm even breaking it in half like this. I'll give it another little twist like this, and I'm going to come in back to the nose and give a little more definition, maybe under the nose, like where the nostril would be. And this might not work. This is just an experiment. Now that might be too dark, right? But you know what? I think I like it better than the gray. You know, I'm going to pull the gray out. I'm going to frog. I'm going to frog, and unfortunately it's pulling at one of my loops. I wonder if I caught it in there. Hang on. I'm doing a lot more pulling out than usual, but it's okay, right? It's okay. It's not about being perfect. It's not about getting it the first time. It's about making intelligent choices as you go. I just pulled out the gray nose because I think I'm going to like it better with these little twists of black, just tiny amount. Let me see. Go across on the nose here. I might want it a little bit fuller. Let's see. I don't want a lot of detail. I'm just doing 1, 2. Oh, that's all that piece made. Let me get a little more going. 3. Now it seems too high on that side. Let's see, I might have to manipulate that with my hands. Coming under here for a little bit more nose right there. Yeah, okay, that's coming together. I'm going to get a little more black. Definitely liking that more. Yeah, I'm definitely liking that more. Just color-wise, I'm liking that more. So that's another idea. You know, you make it the way that you like it, right? You do you. But for me, I like it like this. So I'm just cutting a little bit of my black, and I'm untwining it just in half because it wants to break naturally into the 2-ply. It really is a 2-ply. And then I just take my little bit and some of that. And I'm going to come up as little lips. Ugh. And it's really up to me where I want to start the lips, because now the information is buried, right? The line drawing is buried under the loops, and this is part of what happens when you hook. And now it's up to me to decide, well, what looks the best to me? Little piece just came up there. Okay, I'm kind of loving that. I'm kind of loving that. I just feel like this piece, you see how this loop just feels to me like it's in the way. So I could remove it, or I can force my way in next to it. I'm going to force my way, I'm going to elbow. Oh, doesn't sound good out there. Somebody just lost part of their car. Wow, that sounded awful. Oh my word. I really like that. This eye looks a little bit small. I might fix that eye, but I really like that. You know, until, oops, now I messed that up. So let me try again. Until you experiment a little bit, you're not going to get your best look, right? You really have to fool around to get it the way you want it. I love this. Okay, that's how I want it. Make sure you do it the way that you want it. I had the gray strips in there, trying to get some focus. There we go. And I turned it into that, right? And I don't even know about the little bit of purple in his ear. It's getting very dark now. I do like the purple in the ear. I do. I could even use the purple for a little bit of shadow, right? If I wanted to on the bottom legs. Let me put a little bit of purple in the other ear, just to balance them out here. I'm very happy with the face, and I'm liking the way the legs look. So I feel that that's resolved itself. I still do not like the green. That might have to, looking sheepish. There he is. He does look sheepish. He's very tentative little face. I think I actually drew it differently on the, and yes, I'm carrying in the back again, because it makes sense, right? I do things that make sense. Well, I try to anyway. So I'm going to finish that there. I do feel like he needs a little more of the lighter color. So let me get a little bit of that over here, you see? I just feel like his ear needs to be a bit more pronounced over here. So I don't want to pull out anything because I do have some tails under. That's the hazard of having tails under. Just be careful. Just going to fill out his ear a little bit. Yep. This is part of the reason why no matter how many people are hooking the same thing, everybody's work looks different, doesn't it? Because we all make different decisions as we go. Pull that one in a little bit closer. Yeah. Oh, now the ear is a bit fat right here. But when I hook it, it'll probably come. No, I think it'll be okay when I hook it in, right? You see what I mean? Because he does have floppy ears, and I am going to leave the tail underneath, right? I'm the queen of leaving the tail underneath. Happy with that so far, right? Not happy with the green. I'm not happy at all with the green. I'm so sorry. I've got to frog. I really hate the green. I know some of you liked it. I'm so sorry. I'm a jerk. Is this green or orange? No, that's orange. Let me grab some of this green. See, it is handy when your tails are on top because you know what you're pulling at. It's just driving me crazy. Let's see. Let's get that out of here. And now let me think on this again. I know we got to make a bit more progress here. I'm debating if I want that piece of green, that piece of land at all. I'm kind of thinking, as I look at this, it might have made more sense to have the green under here. Do you see what I mean? Instead of like all wrapped up in here, to have it filling in the line under him. Because I've got this good straight line here, right? That's going to separate this from the text at the bottom. Let's just try that real fast. I just feel like what I need is better definition. And that shapeless green, I think more than the color, the shapelessness of it was getting on my nerves. So let me see if I were to do this. Just another idea. Oh, thanks, Linda H. I do. I like the face. It's a cute little face. He does look a little bit like he's wearing a beret. Ha ha ha. Maybe it's a French sheep. I don't know if that was appropriate what I said. I never know if I say appropriate things anymore, you know. I'm not going to start that. So I'm coming up on here, coming up to where his little feet are. It might be that I like this better, you know, because the green is color changing as well. And it might be exciting and have more kind of contextual meaning if, get the tail up on that, if the green is where you would expect the green to be. I think I am going to like this a bit better. So I am using the line, but I'm using the line, I'm gonna flatten out this line at the bottom and create a line that's not really there. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I'll just do part of it, and then I'm going to do the letters, and then I might flake out. Let's see how far we get. I think we're doing pretty good though. You know, I have to say I like this episode. I've done a lot of frogging, but I want to show, particularly if you're a beginner, that frogging is okay. Ripping out is okay. It's expected. It's how you make good decisions. Don't just keep something in to be lazy, right? Nobody knows lazy better than me, but don't just keep things in to be lazy or because you just can't process the idea of having wasted any time. It doesn't take that much time to do loops, right? At the end of the day, it really doesn't take that much time. Make sure that what you end with is something that you are very happy with. Let me turn him a little bit here. I think I'm going to like this more. This makes more sense to me. And part of the reason, and again, if you are doing it in a more traditional way and you haven't gone out on a limb the way that I have with this exact color plan, if you've done yours in the way that was kind of more intended, then you are not running into the same problems as me. But if you're doing exactly what I'm doing and you're falling into through the same trap doors that I'm falling into, you might have to consider this too, because having done the orange the way that I did the orange in that very hit or miss background, right, it created a lot of color variation. It created a lot of interest. It looks like a very sunny, swirly background there. And mine is a little bit darker than yours too. Your orange is in general lighter than mine. I took the one that was bad and I sent out the ones that were better. So your orange is going to be a lot brighter than mine, and your green is definitely a lot brighter than mine. But you might be encountering the same thing. If you do a hit or miss background with the orange, you need something a little more stable for the grass. And how did I know that? I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I started doing it. And once I started doing it, I could see something was wrong, and then it just becomes a question of, playing Clue. Well, what's wrong? What could it be? Let's figure it out. There's too much movement. There's not enough contrast, right? There's a few things going on. There's only so many things that you can do to fix that, to fix these particular problems. And the more experience you have, the more experience you get from practicing, whether it's rug making or any kind of art, right? Or just looking at art, the more you build confidence and the more you store up ideas and solutions for when you hit a similar problem, right? The more you look at, the more you see, the more you collect ideas and impressions, and you save them as solutions for when you hit a wall and you're thinking, something's wrong. I can't put my finger on it, but, and I couldn't put my finger on it, right? I kept just hooking in different colors. That was the problem. The background, as I hooked it, was just too busy. And you can see how now, I'm not there yet, but you can see how now the background, hooking it this way with the green at the bottom, like an actual piece of ground, rather than just the swirl, for me, with this color plan is working a lot better. It's a lot stronger. I'm just trying to come up sideways with a loop, and my loop is twisting underneath, so having a little bit of a struggle. There we go. Doing some sideways loops here so they fit better. This is all stuff that you figure out as you go along. But I do think it's going to be, yeah, I'm definitely liking this better. Problem solving. And sometimes if you're a beginner, or if you're still at this stage of hooking where you're trying to feel more sure of yourself, but it's not right there. Maybe the answers don't come to you real easily. Maybe you think, oh, I just screwed it up and that's that. And maybe you have to sit with it for a little while, right? Maybe you have to just put it aside and come back to it next day, next week, next month, next year. And maybe you won't feel so irate and close to the problem. This is life, right? This is also life. And yeah, when you come back into it, sometimes it's real obvious what you need to do. Also logging on to Kirsten's, oh, I like that very much, I have to say. I like that very much. I am going to take the time to plug in the orange here, though. Now that I removed that, I want to fill that in with more orange. If you are a beginner and you want practice looking and hooking, getting feedback, anything like that, you definitely should, if you can, log on to the live Zoom that Kirsten does. She's part of the Ribbon Candy Hooking brand. She's an excellent artist. She's an excellent teacher. She's one of my best friends. Log on to her Zoom on Tuesdays between 10:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. Sorry, I'm just doing my dental pick right here. Stop it. Stop with the dental pick. Should not be doing it. You know, when I go quiet like that, I'm up to something, right? If you figured that out, I was doing the dental pick, and I was trying to do it discreetly, and it's not discreet because I go silent, and you must know she's doing the dental pick and she's packing. If I know it, you know it, right? I don't know who I'm trying to fool here. But, you know, when you go onto the Zoom thing, you could just watch. You don't even have to have your camera on. You don't have to go looking for feedback. You never have to go looking for feedback for your pieces. You could do a crazy piece like this piece here, and it might be that you all are saying, wow, that was a really cute pattern. I've never seen anybody slaughter something quite the same way as Deanna did just now. But I have to say, I really like it, right? We don't have to like the same things. We don't have to hook the same way. You don't have to ask for feedback unless you want it. Don't feel like if you log on that you're going to have to show your work and that people are going to automatically say, well, this part's okay, but you made a pig's breakfast of this over here. People are not going to say that, and not in that context, not this group of people. And Kirsten is a great moderator, right? If you are not looking for feedback, just come and enjoy and or even watch what other people are doing and see what they're working on and follow their progress and learn to see that way, right? Some people, and this is for life too, right? And you're going to know which kind of person you are. Some people, when your friend tells you, for example, don't go out with a man that does this, this, and this, because you know it's not going to end well. And you're like, well, I can see that it didn't end well for you, and it was actually devastating and horrific, but I'm the kind of person who has to make my own mistakes. And even though I understand what you're saying and it makes sense, I still got to do it myself because I'm that kind of person. Then there are other people who have the self-control, restraint, whatever kind of personality where they can say to themselves, yeah, I don't need to make that mistake. My friend went through hell. I don't need to do that. I learned from it. Well, I'm the former, right? Unfortunately, I have to do everything myself. And if you are a person who does everything yourself, then you're going to want to be hands-on and try working out your piece and try problem solving the way that I'm doing here, right? Because this is what I do when I hook something. I problem solve, and I spot problem solve as I go along. Someone else could be sitting here watching me hooking and going, okay, I see what happened when she put the green in, right? There was no kind of grounding. She ran into a problem. I can see that. I'm not going to do that. I just clocked that, and I'm not going to do that. I could see what happened when she hooked outside the line a bit with the black. I could see that that turned out to be a problem, right? It made the sheep a slightly different, larger size, changed the scale of it. I can see that was a problem. I'm not going to do that. If you're that kind of person, you are going to have an easy time with everything, right? And that's a great gift. And it doesn't matter which kind of person you are. You just have to know the kind of person you are. Incidentally, I'm not starting with a tail in this area here. It's giving me some play. Remember, there's a gap right here, tiny gap. I'm starting with a loop because I really want that to be a nice, large shape. There we go. Right? I want that to be a shape. I don't want that just to be a raggedy tail, right? So I'm leaving that like that. I'm going to come around here. I'm just trying to define this corner before I forget. Now, I'm never going to hook this whole thing, right? Because even if I felt not nauseous, I've pulled it out so many times, and I'm sorry about that. I think we're getting the main parts in. We're going to do a recap, too, and I got tons of time. It's usually between 3 and 8 people, so it's not scary, Kirsten says. Big and everyone is really nice. I know that for sure. Everyone is really nice. But it's a great place to go to figure stuff out, right? And it's not this kind of thing. People are hooking together, but you can ask to see other people's work. And I'm sure there are people who are very comfortable showing you their work. And hearing what people are working on and what they've struggled with, if you can clock that for yourself and say, okay, I've got a similar thing going on. I understand what she's saying about the background. I understand what she's saying about going around the lines. I understand that. That makes sense to me. When I get to that part, I feel better about knowing what I'm doing, right? So that's real helpful. It's also great just to have company. Just hooking around his body a little bit because you can see how it really pops him as I hook around his body. It's also the exercise of hooking around his body with the ombre orange is making me really happy that I did do the background. It was painful, right? There were almost some tears. Not really. There were almost more rivets, more frogs. But I am really happy that I did it this way now because I'm loving the way it looks as the color changes around his body. It's way more busy than if I had handled the ombre as an ombre and did dark to light in any direction. This is more me. and maybe doing it in a more traditional way is more you. Do it the way that's more you, right? Do it the way that's more you, for sure. Let me just move this here. And there we go. Yeah, I like going, and remember he has a little piton of a tail over here, like it's a little, kind of little button tail. And Kirsten says, we talk a lot about other people's rugs and we learn from each other. Yeah, that is a great community to enter into as a beginner. And Kirsten, of course, while I'm on vacation, Kirsten will be, ow, I just pinched my arm under the frame. Kirsten will be running those. So take advantage. If you're home, take advantage. And again, Kirsten, you don't have to turn your camera on, right? You can just be there and be shy if you feel like the house is not right or you don't want people seeing the house or you don't want to be on camera. You're shy. It doesn't matter. The reason doesn't matter. No one's going to ask you. You either have your camera on or not. But the thing is to make the most of the content. And if you're at a point in your hooking where you need to gather information, it's a perfect place to gather information. If you're at a point in your hooking where you have information to share, then share, right? Yeah, I'm really happy with that. For me, this is really me, right? The kind of craziness. You can see all my buffoonery over here with the swirl. It's not bothering me at all. I like all that movement. I'm going to remind you, if you have this kit, your orange is way lighter than mine. So you probably don't have this kind of really dramatic value change. I'm going to come around. I just want to fool around here for a minute, and then I'm going to do the letters, and then we'll do a time check. I just want to look at what it looks like if I get him. Oh, this is like an edge piece I've got. Well, that's all right. Yeah, that's all right. It's the let me get a cleaner piece. It was the one on the edge, you know. Let me see what it looks like if I get under his tummy like this. You see how I was trying to make some little blip blops in and out to show the movement of the wool, to show that he's like a big, fluffy little thing. You know what I mean? Instead of just like a round blimp, a round shapely blimp. I wanted to give him some kind of jagged contour. Oh, and again, I love the way it looks with the color changing this way too. Kirsten says, no need to have a camera on. It's nice to say hi, absolutely, and introduce yourself. No lesson plan, right? It's just hanging out. Oh, I like that. I like that. See, in doing what I did and doing a lot of frogging, never going to be able to stop now. Even if you want me to, I'm never going to be able to stop. I love that too much. In doing what I did and doing a lot of frogging, I figured out how I wanted it, right? And that's the thing. And that's what you've got to get to too. It's going to take some experimentation. It's not screwing up. It is, believe me, I've done a lot of that too. It's not screwing up. It's figuring it out. And you can't figure it out until you get some colors in, until you see what you're looking at. It's not the same as putting colors down on the table and going, I like these colors together. It's never going to work like that, right? It's never going to work like that. You have to figure out what they look like together, even with a kit. Someone can send you a kit like I sent you this kit, and you could say, yep, I get it. I get what you mean, but I want to do it this way or that way. Absolutely. You have to do it your way. And even with a commercial kit, even if you thought you liked it the way that it was or the way that your vision was and you had it all planned out, it might be that that's not the way that it turns out. Just like life, right? God, I'm loving this. I'm going to stop, but I'm being a super vain maniac now. Let me just come down here, and then we got to do some letters. Loving that little face, too. For me, that's just enough. You know, we hooked it with the gray, had to pull the gray out. Wasn't doing it for me at all. But it might be that the gray was doing it for you, and it might be that you don't have a purple sheep. So there could be a lot of different things going on with yours, and that's why it's going to be important to make decisions as you go along that make sense. If you like what I'm doing here, do exactly this. Took some serious pratfalls to get to a place where it started to make sense for me, but it definitely started to make sense for me, and I'm really, at this point, loving it. Let me finish this little bit under his body. Oh, thanks, Kim. The definition does look better. And you can get even more detail, right? I'm not sure about that uh, um, poodle thing on his head. I'm not sure about that. I'll probably leave it, but just realize you could also do it with just the sheep's head, right? With just the same color as his body. You could do it just like that. Again, if you have any problems with quantity for this, because I am doing something different, and you're like, oh man, I'm copying her the way that she's doing it because I'm a beginner, and now she went out on a limb with different color placement, and now I don't have enough of this, that, or whatever. Maybe you hooked a little high, maybe you went outside the lines in certain places. If you need help with colors, just let me know, right? Because I did this to you by Fruit Looping it up the way that I did. Man, I'm loving this though. All right, I'm going to bring you closer, and then let's do some. I mean, this is not a masterpiece. I don't think that this is a masterpiece by any means, right? I'm not, it's not like I'm the best hooker, right? I hook like this, and this is how I like to hook. I really like this. Now, before I do the letters, just remember, I know it's getting late too, just remember that this was just a zigzag that I did here. Your plaid is not enough to fill in the whole background. I don't think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You could do more than one zig. Oh, You could do more than one zigzag color, couldn't you? Like you could put another color here and then go to a background color. It's your piece, right? You do it however you want. I'm just going to show you, because I'm supposed to be putting, I want to level out this bottom piece because remember I changed the height of it a little bit, give myself more room at the bottom. I'm going to just put a little bit of green in here. So, before I log off, I am going to do letters, but I just want to remind you that this was the idea for here, was that the green, your colorful green, and your green is different than mine. Your green is the one that's super color changey. It's a very spring green, lots of shades of green within it. And it's got pink, it's got yellow, it's got a lot of colors in it. Maybe a little bit of orange, right? It's a very spring green. Mine is a color changing green, but it's a much darker green. And I think that's one of my struggles is I don't like the green as much. But I am happy thinking about what your color combo is because it is different than mine. So I'm just coming up here with my green. And if you're a beginner and you're wondering, is she going into every hole? No, I'm not going into every hole. I'm making sure that there are not gaps in between the loops. I'm going into almost every hole because this is a number 6 and it's pretty fine. If I had the 8, I would not be going this close as I went along. I'll bring the tail up there. But that's one of the things that as you get more experience, you have to get used to looking at. And remember, you can do more than one zigzag here if you want. You could add that purple yarn or something crazy there if you wanted to. Oh, God, I so want to do that. It's just too late. I so want to add a line of that purple yarn right here. No, I'm doing it. Sorry, I'm doing it. I'm just going to do a little bit of it because it's going to drive me crazy. I really want to do that. So I got it doubled up again, and I'm going to start hooking it with the tails, right? So I end on a double. Last time I ended on a single. So I'm going to pull the ends up there, and I'm just going to go along here. You could do this with any color, right? You can go into your stash too. You don't have to just stick with the colors I have. If you go into your stash, then whatever you have left over from your kit, you just save that for next time. But if you're thinking, oh, you know what would go really well there is like a bright yellow, and you have a bright yellow, hey, get it out and get going, right? I just thought it would be fun to just do. And again, I've doubled up this bright, bright, bright purple. I have not heard from Jocelyn. She must have come home a while ago from horseback riding. I hope she came home. I have not seen hide nor tail of her. I'll show you this close up too when I get a little bit more. And I know it's getting terribly late. It's almost 10. Gotta get the kids to bed too. I'm just rotten. Sorry about all the pulling out here. But again, I'm not being cute, but I'm not super sorry because I think it is helpful. And I want you to know that this is how I work too, right? Just because I do this and this is my job, and when I finish things, I think that they're the best version of itself. It takes a lot to get to that version, right? Um, but I've had a lot of art training in my life. It still takes a lot to get to that version. And it's a lot of decision making. And I think the worst hazard with any art or craft is to be too sure of yourself, right? It's good to be confident. But what I mean by sure of yourself, make sure that you check in constantly with what you're doing. Make sure that you think about all of the options, right? Don't just keep going all sort of pig-headed. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a lack of talent. Just keep checking in with what you're doing. Make sure that it's the way that you want it, right? And think about what the options are, right? Do you play any of those stupid phone games like Wordle or anything like that, where you're trying to think of a word and you're like, God, what word ends with TCA that has a U in it? And just for example, and you're like, yeah, that isn't a word. I don't know this. And you're just not thinking along the right lines. Do you know what I mean? Happens with Scrabble too. You're just not thinking around the right lines. It's the same thing with color. You have to keep thinking, well, wait a minute. I thought that I liked green with orange, but I don't. And once I plugged it in, I realized for me it was making the association too strongly with the wall at the Mexican restaurant. And while I love that restaurant and I love Mexican colors, it wasn't what I wanted for this piece. But if it's what you want, you should have it in there, right? And maybe you're thinking, oh, what that piece needs is more orange. That piece needs more of a fiesta happening. Let's get some more of those colors in there. Then you absolutely should. But keep second guessing yourself, right? There's a difference between being confident and being like pig-headed and over confident, right? There's a big, big difference there. Yeah, I'm loving the way that's looking now. Let me show you a little bit. Oops, sorry. There we go. See how I've got that purple? I've got the plaid line here. And again, my plaid is not as bright as yours. Your plaid is teal. And then I've got my purple here. This purple is the same purple that you have. I'm kind of liking that. I like it with that line of purple. I knew that I needed to have that there for, dark, light, dull, bright. There's a lot of this is bright, but that is my color palette. So I kind of went for my brighter colors and leaned in. I have a purple sheep. Let me just do a little bit of the green here. I'll fill in these two green areas, and then I'm going to hook the text, and then I'll hook a little bit of the background, and then we'll call it a night because I know it's late. I get that whole 2 in the morning, up at 2 in the morning, fooling around, right? I think we all get that. When you get going with a project, it just feels so good to get some traction going. One thing I'm going to say, I'm not going to fix it right now, but one thing I'm going to say that I'm not a huge fan of with what I've done right here, you see how I haven't hooked this area yet, but you see how this plaid goes right down to this bottom compartment? I'm not sure that I like that. I think in future I might pull it out and hook this last one. It's just one loop. This one loop between the green and the orange. I think that needs to be orange because it kind of confuses me that it goes right down to the compartment below. I think it would make a big difference if that was orange. You know what I mean? That's a very small thing and it's a design choice, and maybe your eye wouldn't even catch that, but my eye keeps going to that, and it's making my eye angry. So looking forward to going to Cape Cod. It is such a dream thing. And it's so early in the season. Yes, the kids are at school and I'm taking them out. I talked to both teachers. They both said, these kids are doing so well. No problem. No work to work on. They're both ahead in their classes. How can that be? Just kidding. Because we do so much horsing around. But hey, teachers should know, right? They're doing real well. Oh, it'll be so nice to just get there. We stay at the motel the first 2 nights to sneak onto the Cape 2 extra days. And I just love being at a motel. I really do. I'm not fancy pansies at all. Just be so fun. Oh, the bleeding hearts will be out, the plant. the lilacs, all the hydrangeas. Oh, can't wait. I'm really loving this. I mean, I hope if you're working on this pattern too, I hope it's coming out in a way that you love it, right? So this is driving me crazy, but no, I'm not. I got to get rid of that. I'm sorry. I got to just pull that one loop. That's driving me nuts. It looks, it's interfering. So I'm going to pull out that loop. Let me just get a little bit of, drop my scissors. That was a sign. More frogging. All right. We just get an orange loop in there just for the sake of sanity, because that was driving me nuts. It's funny sometimes, and again, it's just a question of just experience and trusting yourself. When you see something that irritates you, it doesn't matter if you can define it, right? It doesn't matter if you can articulate why it's irritating you. If it's irritating you, just get rid of it, right? You don't have to have a degree in composition to say, well, it's bothering me because it doesn't follow the axis of the golden rectangle. Who cares? What matters is it doesn't look right. To me, that looks better. It actually looks like there's too much orange. I'll probably change. I'm not going to do it right now, I promise. Probably change that to green. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this green to this line. That's what I'm going to do. Because now that looks weird. Well, to be continued. Let's come over here and finish this part. So I'm going to move this on the frame a little bit. And be careful because I have yarn in this piece. Whenever I have yarn, I'm extra careful about these combs, right? I got the angry combs here because it's so easy to pull, especially yarn out on combs. Just moving my piece up a little bit. You have much bigger borders on you've got 4-inch borders. I've got a little border on mine because I found this little scrap. I always give myself the worst of everything. It's just like being a mom and the food and everything else, you know what I mean? Worst seat, worst food, worst everything. But I wanted to be sure that you all had, for the kit, the best stuff, because you bought it, right? And I'm just fooling around at home. All right, hang on. Let me come. There we go. You little something, something. All right, I'm going to work on this now. It's not, there we go. I'm just pulling it tighter. So, black sheep. I'm going to use this, right, which is what it's meant for, and I'm going to hook the background. I'm going to hook the word black in this stuff. And my plan for the background of that, I think, was the plaid. Yeah, the plaid is meant to go in the background of this with this light color. That's the official plan, but as usual and as always, do it how you want to do it, right? Don't do it the way I'm telling you. Look at your supplies, check your quantities, right? And if you're using a lot of one thing in one place, you're going to run out. But you can always write me about it. See if you're fudging it, you know, you got to just pay attention to quantities. You don't want to run out while you're hot and in the middle of something. I'm just grabbing a piece because I got this all. I'm just going to cut it. It's giving me too much play. So I'm going to hook the cursive with yarn. It's just about the hardest thing in the world. Sorry if my hand is over this. Let's see. I'll hook backwards so you can see part of it anyway. It's just about the hardest thing in the world to hook cursive. I'm going to leave my tail up because why not, right? It's kind of in the middle of nowhere there. I'm going to hook very high, and it might be that I end up hooking and pulling it and hooking around it. So hooking the letters, hooking around it and pulling it out again. It might be that that happens. That is often what happens with your letters because the letters are very fine and filigree. Sorry, I have to turn this. Cursive, right? Troubling. The letters are very fine and filigree, and I have to be sure that they stand out, particularly with cursive. Cursive is tricky. So, and I'm not going to go too far. Hold on, I'm going to concentrate for a second. I'm not going to go too far with this because I want to be sure that I can see what I'm doing. I don't want to lose track of where the letters are because at a certain point I just have a bunch of loops. I might not curl the K. I could also make my yarn thinner, or if you choose to hook this part with, no, I am going to make the loop. If you choose to hook this part with wool, you might be wanting to cut it in half here. If you didn't get this kitted and you're making the pattern and you're doing it yourself, you might want to think about sock yarn or like a number 3 cut for wool. You want thin for this. I'm just hooking the bottom of the K. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pause for a second because I've hooked quite a bit of the letter K. Let me bring you back down. I don't want to forget what I mean. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't want to forget what I mean. I'm going to take my plaid and I'm going to hook, let me first hook the top up here and under it. I got to frame this out, right? I got to frame this out or I'm going to lose track. And I don't want the letter hitting the orange border. I want there to be some definition. Now remember, your plaid is the intended for this part. If you want something else, do something else. Make sure you have good contrast. You have a different plaid for the 100th time, just in case, right? You have a different plaid. So you're going to have better contrast than me automatically. So I'm just kind of hooking the line underneath. And remember, I made a little extra room for myself up here. Just making sure that I'm straight. The material that I have for plaid is actually coating material, and it is already giving me a callus, instant callus. Yours is not. Yours is perfect for hooking. You're going to not have the same struggles that I'm having here. And I'm going to hook underneath because I want this to, well, you know what? I'm going to anticipate, don't look out for this, right? This is all kind of above the line, but the P here is going to come lower. So I'm probably going to want to, I might want to, as I'm hooking this, just lift the P to be a little bit higher up. I could do that, right? You see what I mean? Because it's right down there on the bottom bar. So you need to think about that, whether you want to add one more row under here or whether you want to lift the P a little bit. You can have it touching the border too. You might not have the same craziness in your brain, the kind of crazy noise that I have in mine. And if you don't have the craziness, then you just instinctively do it the way that makes sense for you, and it's going to be perfect. I have the crazy noise, so I have to respect that because I know it'll drive me nuts if that P is touching the bottom line. I remember in cursive, the P did come down to the bottom line, so it's not like it's a crime. All I'm doing with these straight shots is I am defining this compartment. I want to know the shape of this so that I can make good decisions about the letters that I'm about to hook, right? I just started in on the K. I'm not going to hook the whole thing because it's 10:03, but I'm going to make good decisions and I'm going to show you the premise. Man, these colors look good together. Sorry, that was me just kissing my biceps while my hand blisters up. All right, let me come over here. All right, so that's the end of that. I always cut my tails as I go. That's another compulsion. So let's see. Yep. All right, so you see how I've got my K in here. It's sideways. It's a little bit out of focus, I know. Kim is trying to pick up on me moving too. So I'm going to come back with my plaids. Ooh, this is going to hurt, right? Look at this callus is getting angry. Can you see that right there? That's just from hooking that one piece. This is really thick. So I'm going to come in here, and it's going to be hard with my plaid because it's thick. So I'm going to have to do some very non-traditional things. It's so thick. I got my tail up there for the tip of the K. Oops, wait a minute, tip of the K. I'm probably going to do one loop, and then I'm going to do one tail. I'm going to show this to you closer up. No, you know what? I'm going to do two. No, I'm going to do two tails. That is non-traditional. It's not advisable because it's not good practice. But in my case, I've got a really thick material, and I just wanted that much of it to be filled in, right? So you've got to make common sense decisions, right? I have to make common sense decisions. And I already kind of lost track of the shape of the K. See, this is why you have to do it as you go along. So my C comes up like, okay, yeah, and the tail of the K is there. I haven't hooked that part yet. You have to do it as you go, otherwise you will lose the shape of it. Letters are hard. Come around here before I lose the shape of the tail. But it's tempting to do all of your letter at once because you got the yarn going and it makes sense. I'm sorry that's so out of focus. I'm just going to lift you up again. It's hard when my hand is moving. It's tempting to just do the whole letter because you got the yarn going and yeah, you want to just continue on, get some traction, but you really have to remember that, particularly with cursive letters, not as much with bold letters, You have to remember that as you go along, all you're going to see are the loops, and it's not going to be clear what the letter is, right? And you're not going to be able to see the line of the letter anymore. So I would advise strongly, and I don't advise strongly on a lot of things, just do a little bit and then fill in, and then do a little bit more and fill in, right? Leave your tails underneath, try not to catch them, but it's the smartest way to go with something like this, because you want to remember the sweep of the lines, and it is fine in filigree. So yeah, you don't want to lose that, because then you'll just end up pulling out the line that you hooked, like the letter. You end up pulling it out because, God, this is thick. What a stupid ding-dong I am. Because you can't see it. But as you can see, right, I just have that curve in the K. It's a very small part of the letter, but I'm probably not going to pull that out because that's pretty perfect. I pulled the letter loops up high, being really careful what I hook around it. Right, I just did one little loop, and then I stopped and took stock. I'm going to do this as a, wow, this is thick, as a tail. Yeah, that's going to be great. I can really see that sweep. Right, I'll show it to you closer up. Right, I can really see the sweep of the K. I know that was a little bit out of focus. And I'm going to come back under here. Okay, that's, oh, there's one little piece here. That's the circle of the K, like of the inside of it. And I'm going to do two tails in here again. And no, that's not common practice. But again, it's too thick to do a loop. Two tails is what I need. And manipulate. You manipulate with your hook. Because if you need to, so I'm trying to get you the best possible view of this without making it, okay. Yeah, I'm not going to introduce the hook immediately because it changes the focus. You can see with this letter, right, I'm trying to fill in, I got to do it now, this part here, right, I got to respect this connecting part. I've got a little bit of a line here, I've got a little bit of a line here. I'm about to sweep under here. Let me come up here, do this sweep. You have to do things that make sense. If you find that you are losing the shape of the letter, you have to pull the letter out and rehook it after the background is in. If you haven't hooked it high enough and it's not really popping, you have to pull it out and hook it again. Right? So for me, this is coming out just how I wanted it. I'm going to bring a tail up here because I want it to end here. With letters, it's going to help you a lot to get used to twisting your material. It's out of focus again. In the background. So let me do like this. Sorry, I'm really monkeying it up. There we go. So I want to hook the bottom of my tail here. Now I could pull this out and rehook it, but I did hook it high. I feel like I can see what I want to see. I've only done part of the K, right? Now, I still have to look at it right side up. Believe it or not, because, yep, I see. It's very hard with cursive. Letters are pretty much the hardest thing. Cursive letters are the hardest thing that I can think of. Even harder than faces. Have to go slow. Have to hook high. Have to just hook a little bit and then come back to the line, because you see how fast the line disappears in cursive. That is the trouble. What's the benefit of doing cursive? I think it looks cool. I like the way cursive looks. If you don't like the way cursive looks, take a different color Sharpie out. I'm going to pull you up a little higher because of focus. Take a different color Sharpie out. Sorry. And go over it in bold, right? You don't have to do it in cursive just because I'm doing it in cursive. I have this part in cursive. I have this part not in cursive, right? So maybe start with this, with the B and the A. That's going to be a lot clearer. This part is a lot harder, right? You're going to have all these lines like I'm doing working. I'm going to say even this part here, I'm not sure. That might be too thick. That's just two tails, right? And I might have to pull it out in the end and pull the purple around the letter out more. You know how I'm going to know whether I need to do that? Well, it's going to be dependent on, I've got to put another little piece in there, on whether I can read it when I'm done. That's how I'm going to know whether I'm okay or I need to rethink it is, can I read it or not? And I'm not going to hook the whole thing because it's way too late for that. But I just want to show you problem solving wise. Oh God, this is awful. I thought, what a pretty color. And yeah, no, that was a mistake. All right. I do like the way that came up though. And I'm going to leave the tail for that underneath. It is probably looking like a pig's breakfast to you because it's also out of focus. Let me get it into focus, and it's also backwards. Right? It's fairly out of focus right there still. And you can't really see what I'm doing because I haven't got these loops in here to squish this on the side. It's not really looking like the letter K though. So I think I got a problem there. You know what I think I did? I'm hooking it upside down, which isn't helping. Yeah, I don't think I have the tail in there good enough. So I am going to have to pull that out. I am. But what have I done right so far with hooking it? I got to get that tail in there better. It's not sticking out enough. It's upside down for you, but this is the K I'm working on. This is the C. This is the A, right, for black sheep, right behind it. I am going to have to pull some of that out and make the K a bit more pronounced. I think I will take out this plaid in this part because it's going to really hurt my fingers if I keep going with this really thick wool. And if I have something a lot softer, like yours is super soft, it's going to be a lot easier to make these turns. This is super thick, so it's super rigid. I'm going to have an extra hard time. So for me, that's not going to work great. But we turn it back right side up. Takeaways with the letters, right? You often do have to hook them high, hook around them, but only a little bit at a time. If you do more than a little bit at a time, you're going to obscure your letter like I did with my K. I totally obscured it, right? And I know there's more of it to go, but I don't think it's going to work. I think I'm going to need to pull it out. And I think the main culprit at this moment is this material because for me, again, it's not in your kit, but for me, it's too thick. And I'm not able to make those careful turns so that, let's see if I can get you in focus again. It's not pliable enough for me to work with. That's the main thing I'm running up against. You see how the yarn's looking great. Like those loops are high enough. They're holding their own, but the thick wool is way stronger and it's winning. It's like an arm wrestling contest. There's no way the yarn is going to win in this ratio. So it's going to make a lot of sense for me to have to replace that. And I'm going to look for something more like the color that you got because I think this is just too dark. So let's look at it one more time before I log off. I know the kids, I want to be sure Joss is here. Joss is home, right? Okay. Oh, I just wanted to be sure you were home, honey, and you didn't I'm going to say anything awful. Yeah, I do like the way the cursive looks at the bottom, though. I can see I need to change that. That's a given that I have to change the background. But I like the color, matching the color here. I like the way that looks, and I like it as cursive. You're not going to run into that problem with the block letters on the top. So just as a review, on the top you have two colors of pink, like a light and a dark rosy color, these two colors. And I intended, it's up to you, it's your piece, but I intended to kind of mix these and make them the background for the letters. And I was thinking of this color as being the one that did the top. You could equally use this color in the bottom, but if you use this thinner wool, the thinner, darker purple, for your bottom letters, because this is much thinner than this, right? And now it's like, oh, it doesn't look thinner. It's way thinner. So this dark purple is much thinner. If you use this in here, in the bottom, for the cursive, it's going to be great, but don't double it up because the letters will be illegible, right? Don't double it up, but make sure that you pull it extra, extra high, because otherwise it's just totally not going to work. It's definitely not going to work. But you have to be really careful about that. The one that I've got in place, this one is 3-ply Briggs & Little, right? So this is like, I hand dyed both of them, but this is thicker and it's just got more body. This is, I think this one might be a blend, or this might be all cotton, this bright purple one, but it's worsted weight, right? So that's also hand dyed. It has a little color variation. Super pretty. But with the darker one, if you place that one here for the cursive at the bottom, it's almost 100% chance you're going to have to hook it and pull it out. Another thing you could do is hook the bottom. If you want that darker purple spelling out black sheep, you could hook the bottom first in this one, right, that has more body, and then hook around it bit by bit, bit by bit. Remember, do not do the whole word or you will not be able to find the word. You will not be able to find the letters anymore. Do it bit by bit, but you could hook it in this, then pull it out just a couple of loops at a time and hook the purple in. And this will hold a bigger spot because this is a little bit thicker. So when you hook the purple in, hook it nice and high if you're going for the darker one, and it'll fill in the spot nicely. It'll be able to accommodate, right? The background will accommodate it really well because there'll be a nice placeholder in there for it. It's always good if you do that technique to hook a little bit larger, pull it out, and then hook it, in a little bit of a smaller gauge, just so it looks comfortable and not crowded, right? We're going for not crowded. So I'm just putting my stuff away, and I want to say a couple more things before we log off. And sorry, it was not my best night. I did make it through, I have to say. I'm going to give myself a big hooray for you, because I was not feeling well, and I'm not feeling great. I'm going to go straight to bed after this. I don't know what's going on with me, but I better snap out of it before it's vacation. Picking up all my bits and pieces off the floor here. Okay, let me come up a little bit higher. I'm going to say, okay, things to talk about. Let me just take it off the frame. You can look at it. And it's good to see the back of it too, right? Because you can see, get some water. I have some big gaps, right? See, I knew if I did more with dental pick, but you can see it's such thick yarn that on the front, there's absolutely no holidays. So let me get you all squared up here, and let's look at this together. And let's just talk briefly as a recap about some of the things we did, some of the changes that I made. I'm not going to call any of them mistakes because I like the way it's coming out, and I wouldn't have been able to figure that out if I hadn't experimented. If anything, I might want to put even more colors, I don't know, into the zigzag border around here. I love the black for the sheep. That came out great. I packed it a little bit too much, and I hooked right on the line as I normally do, and it made his body a little bit bigger than what it was intended in the picture. So if you like the picture exactly the way it was, you might want to be careful about hooking a little bit inside the line because it is a really thick yarn. When I did the background, I had the ombre orange and, oh, sorry, I have the light in a weird place there. I had the ombre orange, and you could have easily gone dark to light, light to dark, side to side, light to dark, center, light out to dark, light to dark, heading out like a sun, right? Or vice versa. But I did it kind of hit or miss, and it looks crazy in the background. But if you like this look, right, it's all the same color. This is your ombre stuff. If you like this, this is how this comes out, and yours is going to come out pretty similar. The reason I have all this motion in here that almost looks like letters and stuff is because remember I was hooking in the ziggity zag, this line, and it turned out for me that with the colors I was using, I didn't like that. And I ended up hooking straight across, right? If you see it just up to here, I hooked straight across with the orange just to get that baseline here. And then I did a line of green on top of it, and I'm going to continue that. Oh, thanks, Linda Ann. And then I ended up filling in, right? So if I continue this line like this, I ended up filling in this squiggly, and that's what the green part you're seeing here. Right? And then I'm going to continue the orange, and it's going to have this green squiggly on top like a green wave, like he's standing on a little green hill or a little plateau of some sort. I found I didn't have enough gray upstairs, and I kitted all the gray. So I just went by default to my 3-ply yarn, right? The lighter of the pinky purple yarns that you've got in your pack. And I ended up, hooking his face and his little legs with this. I'm going to finish this here too because I really like that. I like the way that looked. I tried hooking, if you remember, and if you're watching, if you're catching at the end, I used the gray to hook the nose, and I was fooling with the eyes, and it turned out, at least for the smaller size black sheep, because there is a larger one, and some of you bought the larger one, you're not going to have the same problems with the larger scale one. I'm having these problems because this is tiny, right? This is tiny. This is just as big as my hand, the part that we're hooking. I forget what the measurement is, but it's quite small. So I'm running into different problems because of the size of it, right? So I ended up hooking this with the gray, and I really liked it. He does have a sweep to his cheek here. I'm yawning. I'm so sorry. Let me drink some water. Wake up. I put a little of the darker purple yarn in here. I ended up just liking the eyeballs, and I ended up pulling out the gray details, and I kind of like the way that this looks, right? It's a little kind of split down here, a little mouth going up to a straight line, and a little nose across. I came over here and I used the plaid. I probably will continue the plaid. I'll pull this plaid out down here, but I think I'm going to finish it here because I do like the way this looks around here. And remember, I put a little bit of the bright purple into the edges here. I doubled it up and I pulled it in here. And then I used my green that was intended for this part, right? All of this, no, I'm sorry, this part. I've got that going here, right? Filling all that in. And I have a little bit of it under his feet in the grass because that has turned out to be what I liked the most. Up here, the intended color here for you and your kit is the cranberry. It's dead on cranberry. So you can't mistake it for anything else. It might be that you want no division line there, that you want to go right from the green to these corner pieces. Or you might want to think about what color you want for that. It might be that you want to repeat the plaid. It might be that you want to go, I'm sorry. It might be that you want to do, for example, you know, you have two colors of pink. Let's call them pink and rose. It might be for the background of this, you want to do pink, and for this, you want to do rose. And for this, you want to do rose, and for this, that you want to do pink, right? Or maybe you want the bas to be not that noticeable, and you're going to hook the ba letters in pink, and you're going to do the background in rose, and maybe reverse it over here. That's another option. Lots of play, lots of mileage, right? And I'm just talking about the colors that are in this kit, not other colors that you might have about, right? So lots of, oh my God, I can't stop yawning. I'm so sorry. That's so annoying. Lots of choices, lots of options, lots of play. But do think about what you want to do with the background with the oranges, because you might not like what I did here. And I'm not leaving it there because I'm lazy. I really do like it. And I don't like this green still. But again, your green is different, so I'm not worried about that. You know what I'm doing with my plaid, how that's being changed. See how it goes. Just be very, very careful with hooking in cursive, right? And don't feel badly if you need to pull it out, because I will be pulling. I think I'm first going to pull out the plaid and then look at the letter K that I hooked, because I hooked it dead on. But I think the strength and the weight of the plaid around it, for me, is crushing it too much. And I don't think hooking this higher is going to help. This is just way, way, way thicker and stronger than the yarn I'm using for it. So I need a material more like the ones that you have in your kit. That's half the weight of this, right? Because this is suiting material. I mean, it gave me a blister like that in that kind of time. This is really not good to hook with. But none of you have this, so you don't need to think on that too much. So yeah, just give it a shot. Again, one more time, when you're hooking letters, whether it's a font like this, like bold, or it's cursive, just a little bit. Do one little loop and stop and fill in behind it, right? Keep it simple. If you're struggling with the background material around your cursive, cut it in half with your scissors and do it in half the width. Keep it simple, just a little bit at a time, or you will lose the lines because you have hooked the lines. You will lose the lines. They're completely hidden at that point. So be careful with this. Text is difficult, but it's not impossible. All right. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
2 times this night. World record.
What did you do? 2 times. Oh, 2 times on camera. Yeah. Is it the world record? I think the world record's more like 50 times on camera.
Aw, I I mean for one live stream.
For one live stream. That's true. I don't do a lot. I only got into doing these hooking live streams recently, and it's a lot of fun. I do love it, I have to
every
say.
single one of them, and there's nothing you could do about it.
Well, I can go to the studio. Just kidding. Just kidding, dancer. Tell Jess to come up and say real hi before I log off real fast. She might not want to. So anyway, let me see what she does. I'm going to pan out a little bit. Let me get rid of this light. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Let me say a normal goodbye. Oh, it's hard to film in Jocelyn's bedroom. Man, I'm not feeling well. I hope nothing's really COVID-y or anything. Yeah, I'm happy. I am happy. Sorry I didn't hook the whole thing. It just was not the night for me, and I made too many changes. You can, of course, plow through. Of course you can plow through. And make it work. You can square peg, circle hole it anytime, but it might be that you end up with something you don't really love. And I really love this pattern, so I really wanted to end up with something that I would finish.
3 times.
Oh, hi, Mom.
With
Hey.
Hi.
Hey. Here, let me turn the light on. It's like, ooh, that's too much light. Oh, X-ray. She got an X-ray. How was horseback riding?
Ow, I just cracked.
Yeah. Don't crack. Don't crack your bones. How was horseback riding?
Good.
Did you ride Buzzy?
Yeah.
She rode Buzzy the horse. He's a
Bye,
beautiful
guys.
big gray horse.
I've been
Watch those fingers. Watch those fingers.
good girl. Don't worry. I'll watch those
right.
fingers. I'll make sure I won't stab you or anyway. But 3 times today.
Okay. Watch those fingers.
Sorry.
Linda Ann,
Seriously,
thank
I don't
you.
know what happened, but my stomach really hurts after stretching.
Oh my gosh. You did too much of a cat stretch. I'll give you some karate chops in bed, all right? We're going to go to bed. Oh, almost knocked the water down. We're going to go to bed. Hey, it was great seeing you. It was great spending time with you. The only reason I was able to stay on this long is because it's fun. And I love checking the thread and being together like this.
I didn't even know you were
getting
live.
some highs. Say hi back.
Hi.
You little softie. Almost vacation time, huh?
3 days.
Yep, on the countdown. So no reading between the lines, haha. We see a lot of the number 3. That's it. It's a joke. It's a joke. Forget it.
Oh,
It's a middle finger joke. It's a joke about middle, like, because if you're doing 3 and they're saying, Linda Ann's saying, be careful not to read between the lines. She knows what it is, right? Because she lives in the real world. That's an excellent joke. I've never heard that before. Hey, let me know how it goes with Black Sheep. I'm not going to have time to finish him before we go away. And when I come back, I'll probably be slammed with busyness. But I seriously do plan to finish him in the future because I really do like him. You like him, Jess? I really do. He just has something, and I like the starburst behind him. I guess one of the reasons I like that orange is because it reminds me of like a sunrise behind him, like the big Ben Franklin, is the sun rising or sun setting, right? That kind of thing.
I like Starburst. Actually, I don't like Starburst. It's not a good
Candy or just the motif?
I like the motif, but I
Yeah.
don't like the candy. The candy is disgusting.
Oh, the candy's fantastic. She doesn't know what she's talking about,
The
obviously.
candy is disgusting.
Oh, Dave, hey! Candy is delicious. You don't know what you're talking about. You're talking crazy. Let me know how it goes with Black Sheep. I will finish him someday. Her. It definitely is a girl. I really love her. And I'm just going to switch out some colors and switch out some stuff. But let me know how yours goes. And I will be with you again Wednesday for coffee time. And we will finish cocktail night. We will finish gallery night on Wednesday. Together at noon Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, what's in the meantime? Oh, after that on Wednesday night, I'll be live for the storybook class. So be sure you're signed up for that. That's a lot of fun. And before something really bad happens, I am going to log off. Have a great night. Thanks for tolerating the kids. They obviously live for these moments, right? They make me laugh so hard. I will see you all soon. And if you need me, ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. You want to say good night?
Good night.
There we go.